This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the January 2nd Selectmen's Meeting. I'll stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, except for Selectman Constantino, who is on Zoom, will be joining us that way. But all the selectmen are present. So the first thing on our agenda would be donations.
Mr. Chairman, there are no donations to report this week.
Okay. And the next thing is reviewing the previous minutes of 12/19/24.
Mr. Chairman, I also gave you November 21st, 2024. Our very able assistant, Sue, who takes care of our minutes, reminded me that we discussed them, but we never really approved them. There were a couple of changes. I believe you, Mr. Chairman, made one of them. And they were minor changes, but if we could approve those two, then we will be caught up to date. Thank you.
I didn't know if Selectman Constantino had the opportunity to look at the minutes, or she'd prefer that we tabled them, or...
I did not, thank you, and I prefer that you table the most recent.
Okay.
That would be December 19th, Mr. Chairman. Most recent.
So we have...
So it looks like the only change on the November 21st one is on the second page, third paragraph down.
Correct. And I stand corrected. It was Selectman Dawson. Talking about the larger the gate.
Yeah.
That coupled with this minutes, I think we're covered with the gate.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of November 21st as read.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Okay, so next thing we have are selectmen reports. Catherine, you're first.
Oh, these may be answered in Scott's report to us as administrator, but mostly questions. Can
No.
we get copies
Can you
of the
hold the
fire
mic in a little
district's
bit?
budget,
Catherine,
their itemized budget?
Yeah, yes, I asked for that, Selectman Dawson, and the chief finally got back to me today. He did tell me that they had email issues. He couldn't produce those copies for us, but he would bring 5 copies tonight because I had told him that the selectmen always like advance copies so they can review it to propose questions. But he was on vacation. He did not get the emails that I sent him, which were 3, looking for the minutes after the selectmen's request.
The
So,
budget that they usually present at district meeting, we all know, is not itemized
Hmm.
like ours is.
right.
It's, administration.
Mhm.
What does that include?
Yeah, so like I said, I hope it's itemized.
Okay,
Um,
I did not, Catherine, I
we'll
did not
find
say
out, right?
itemized, but if not, then we can make sure it's clear tonight.
Thank
So,
you.
You're welcome.
My other question is, how are we doing on the, I'm gonna call it other Philbrook Cemetery down by the causeway? Have we had any contact with the property owner?
None that I'm aware of.
Is there one owner or are there 2 separate owners, one for each building?
There's actually, there's 2 owners listed on each of the buildings, one in common with the both and one individual on both. So there's 2 daughters and the father is on each one as well.
I believe
And they were sent, over the summer, they were sent certified letters with no return um, received.
Okay. And how are we doing with the town properties?
Town property's good. Chuck was out sick today. I do expect that he's wrapping up the last, one or two was the last conversation I had with him, so. I did tell him we would like it long before we start discussing,
No, we just don't want
Yeah.
it to drop.
right, well, long before we discuss town meeting stuff and that stuff, so.
I'm good, thank you.
And Eric, you're next.
Nothing to report.
I am next, so I don't have anything to report either.
Moving right along. And we didn't have a budget committee meeting last night because of the holiday, but we'll be meeting next Wednesday. And we'll be taking votes. So anybody who wants to, outside agencies
Oh.
and I think the police department and stuff like that. And that's it,
What time does the budget committee meet?
6 p.m.
Okay, it used to be 7, right?
Yes,
Not in my personal experience.
it was.
Was it? Okay.
This is the first time I've been on the budget committee in all these years.
Really?
Yeah.
You're so
That's
good at
kind of
it.
why I wanted the budget committee.
You're so good at
Mm.
it. Wow. Okay. Thank you.
So that, Pat, would you like to have a selectman's report?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we're a little early for the fire commissioners. This is the first time we've had this problem. It's kind of nice.
Your
Good
report?
job, John.
Yeah,
Yeah.
would you like to do your report?
Actually, I'd be glad to that way if, unless Tim feels that his is
No, you go right ahead.
more imperative. So I did send you my report via email, as I commonly do, but I also have a copy. I placed a copy in your booklets today. As you guys know, Amy is on vacation playing grandma down in North Carolina, and so if there's any mistakes, it's Tim and I. I'm not going alone, Tim. So, so we're in this battle together. We had originally on the schedule had the fire chief to talk about the a parking situation at the Central Street Station, which Chairman Constantino asked me to take off because we do not have the surveyor's written report. There was a holdup with one of his pieces of equipment that he needed to drive the marker down in through the asphalt. So he did assure Tim that we will have it. So that I did speak with the fire chief today. He called me back, and I did tell him that unfortunately, because we didn't have the report, really the board would not be at liberty to discuss any future plans regarding the parking situation at the Central Street Station until we had a chance, the board had a chance to examine that document in detail. So when I do get it, I will forward it via email for your information. And then we will plan a future meeting with the fire chief to address his concerns there as well. Kind of off the cuff here, if I might. Tim and I have very much wanted to follow up with the Island Bridge grant. Unfortunately, as you'll learn later tonight, that things have been a little topsy-turvy in the office, and we're struggling. We're behind, I guess is the easy way to say it. I have taken over as your health officer effective the 23rd, I believe, of December. Already I've had 3 matters that have been addressed. And as I indicated in my report to you this week, I will be reporting monthly on health officer issues. So we, Selectman Constantino did decline the code enforcement officer position. Tim and I have been working on a plan to come back to the board with for an answer to that. Obviously, that's an important position. We know we need to stay on top of it, but we haven't had a chance to check with the individuals that may be filling in, hopefully temporarily, for us on that until we can come to another some other resolution. So I did speak with Lieutenant Salmon, and I know Chief Gilman was here at the board's last meeting on December 19th, or December 26th, excuse me. That was the day after Christmas. And he did indicate that he had 2 prospective employees, one for detective and one for patrol. This week I spoke with Lieutenant Salmon in anticipation of this meeting because we were going to discuss budgets. Lieutenant Salmon did tell me he has the prospective candidate backgrounds on his desk. He just hasn't had 5 minutes to review them because he's playing police chief this week. Chief Gilman is on vacation. So I told him I understood, no pressure, but when he could, we'd like to hear more in relationship to that. So I learned something new again this week, as I always do, is that I have another responsibility, and that is keeping the board on task for dedication in memoriam for the 2024 annual report. In my report, I did indicate, or I was informed of how the board takes that action, and I left in my letter that when the board's prepared, we'll conduct that at a public meeting, and make the announcement when appropriate for each one of those categories. So I hope the board will be thinking of a
Chair.
person in each one of those categories. So,
Okay, typically, we don't make it public until town meeting
oh,
or when we,
The book
right
is-
beforehand.
The book
The
is done.
annual's published,
And
printed.
when
okay,
it's
Yeah.
printed, yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
I think Selectman Constantino had her
No,
hand raised.
that's exactly what I was going to say. We usually keep it secret until the first issue comes out, and then we deliver the first issue to the person that is tribute to, and then the surprise is out.
Okay, we will do just that. I did, and I expect this may generate some discussion, but I did want to ask the board about selectmen's work sessions. Now, I know we meet every 2 weeks, and obviously everybody's life is busy and crazy and that stuff. But in the past, in my previous life, we did occasionally do work sessions, which were extremely helpful in at least a planning category for myself and others who are charged with bringing the information to this board and making the decisions and keeping the town running. I guess I wanted to know how the board felt about potential work sessions.
Typically, it's been as needed. If we need them, we call them, or,
Yeah.
mix them in with a meeting if the agenda is short.
Mm. I haven't seen the short agenda yet.
Getting there now.
Tonight, maybe.
Tonight's got vacated. Yeah, you're right, as needed, but.
Yeah,
Need us to have a
Most of
meeting.
our work, I think we can accomplish right here
Right,
Right.
for the most part. If not, I'll come whenever.
right,
Mhm.
right. And they could be public, obviously public work sessions that we could have.
Well, they're public meetings.
Right, exactly. Well, that's what I meant. And I didn't know how the board felt about doing it. And in anticipation of, town meeting, um, work sessions where we put our heads together, we want to, what we've decided to do with town properties, for instance, and what work is going to need to be undertaken to make that happen for town meeting, and or any discussions we need to have as it relates to projects. I did send you another copy of the Academy Street design.
Mhm.
I hope the board's had a chance to look at it. I don't like the numbers, and I'm sure you don't. But we obviously,
They're high, but
yeah, they are. And I don't know if Tim wants to chime in on this, but
Well, I was just going to say, as it relates to the warrant articles, aside from the financial warrant articles that we've been discussing, it would be the elderly exemptions that haven't been resolved yet, that we're going to talk about hopefully later during my report. And then also, if the board could have a warrant article specifically for Academy Street for borrowing and to get that accomplished, and or the other. There was one other that escapes me at the moment, but for town properties, if the board wants to, have something incorporated in the warrant specific to the list of town properties, or asking the townspeople, how you want to proceed, even though you have things already prescribed within the law. Um, the board could, if you wanted to use that as a session to, get public opinion on how to proceed with some of those. But other than that, I think those are the, most of them are going to be the financial ones, and then the elderly exemptions would be my guess for this particular route. I had talked about a warrant article to reinstate the Public Works revolving fund, but until I think we see the some history and how the bailing and the transfer station is proceeding with revenues, I think it may be premature. So maybe a year out would be more appropriate to do that, because we have very little
But does it
information
hurt
right now.
anything really? I mean, you're talking about a savings account, essentially.
Yep.
It wouldn't hurt anything if we did it in anticipation of it doing really well.
That's true.
And I'm being
That's true.
optimistic.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it wouldn't hurt anything. I mean,
No, it doesn't.
why absorb that money if we can save it? Maybe it'll become something, maybe it won't.
Right.
And then we're looking at next year dissolving it. But I think in my opinion, it's better to have it
Aren't we
on
getting off?
board so that money is saved and not rolled into the general fund.
Selectman Constantino, did you have something?
Aren't we getting off a little topic here? Because the question was about Academy Street.
I thought
There were
we
lots of questions.
I thought it was warrant articles, but my mistake. So,
Yeah.
So to answer your original question, I would be good with any working sessions.
okay.
Mhm.
Well, I wanted some direction
Mhm.
from the board, just so
Yeah.
Tim and I have been talking, about things that are going to become paramount, and between the bridge and Island Bridge and Academy Street and that stuff, we're going to be talking about some serious issues. So
So real quick, Scott. So basically, just kind of looking at the overall scope right now, we're looking at doing warrant articles for the bridge, possibly this Academy Street thing. And then what are some of the other things that you see that we would need to
Well, I was thinking of the town properties,
in the town
right,
properties?
kind of what,
We
If-
don't need one for it.
But we
Yeah.
don't need a warrant article for that. right?
no, you don't. But having a discussion of, so
Right.
we're on the same page of music, if you will. I just thought it would be a good idea. And sometimes we go from meeting to meeting and we don't get things accomplished at that meeting. They get carried to the next meeting. We don't get them accomplished. So Amy, in her diligence, has kept us on track and what needs to be followed up stuff. So I've got a whole host in my drive in my office of things that I think at some point in time we need to either completely do away with or see if there's life in them that we want to, regenerate some ideas. So,
Okay.
um, and I know we're still a little early. I know one of the commissioners is here, and the chief I thought was on vacation, so maybe I fibbed to you, chief. Back today. That's great. Okay. And the other concern or the other discussion I wanted to have with the board is I did email District 3 engineer Nancy Spalding today. We have tentatively scheduled a meeting for the 16th with this board, District 3 engineers, and before I invite Senator Innes and Executive Counselor Kenny to come, I did want to confirm that with Nancy, who is out until tomorrow. So is it the board's wish that we're going to have that meeting? We're going to publicize it, that we're going to have it to ask, bring in the public, ask questions and get an overview of from District 3 on their prospective projects for the Route 3 corridor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
that was just a small part of the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
I know we're going to entertain
right.
some other questions. I did want to, I think Nancy is looking for somewhat of an agenda, which normally Chair Constantino and I put together on the Tuesday before the Selectmen's meeting, but that obviously would be in a little bit of advance. If there's anything,
But developments along the Route 3 Tilton corridor,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, I would keep it
that's pretty broad.
generic
But-
because
okay.
there's going to be a lot of questions
Yeah.
about different projects,
right,
right? Between ones that, are getting approved through Tilton and stuff. And then, how are we going to how is Route
Right.
3 going to be handled when it comes to the amount of traffic?
I mean, we're affected, you're right, we're affected by developments
We
along
are.
Route 311
Laconia,
corridor in
anywhere.
Belmont.
Yeah.
right.
So,
Exactly.
They all come to 93
Yep.
yeah.
and
So
the
I,
other way.
so I think it's important, right?
You could
Yeah.
throw 140 in there for good measure.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
There you go.
Or maybe that's a later conversation.
Yeah, that's probably a later one. I think they're going to get it enough. This one.
It's
Yeah.
a
So you know when the
shortcut. Don't tell
bypass was
everybody.
talked about?
Yeah. So I think we're good. I would definitely just put kind of like a
Yeah.
general conversation about
Okay.
development
Okay.
because I think maybe we're not really sure where the conversation will go,
Right.
right?
Right.
But I think if we have some idea, that way we're not wasting their time and they're not wasting ours.
Well, and that was kind of, I think what, I assume what Nancy was looking for is, what she needs to be prepared for questions. And I did want to let her know that, the board obviously it's a public meeting and not that nobody didn't want it to be, but, and that the board had invited the public and to be prepared to answer any questions.
Yeah.
Our citizens, I'm sure, have, especially some of the business folks, have a lot of questions. And I think it's an opportunity for um, us as representatives of the town to make sure that the executive council
Mhm.
and the Senate and the House, Juliet, I'll invite her as well, so that we can have a discussion on.
Don't leave out the governor.
Yeah, actually, very good point. Very good point, Joe. Yep,
Well, yeah. I
Yep.
mean, invite everybody, and then
yep,
we'll see who shows up.
right.
Right.
Okay.
We just, I think, didn't we say we were gonna have it at the PD?
Well, we haven't made that decision yet, so that's what I was leading up to.
Oh,
How are we going to publicize it to our public?
I
I
think,
think
Yeah.
that's what would make the determination.
yeah, I think we're going to have to. My thought is obviously we're going to put it on the website,
Yeah.
but we're going to have to reach out to some media, whether it's 94.1,
Yep.
Winterscorn Echo. I think, as well as post it.
Do
Yeah.
we have a Facebook thing? Or
Uh,
is it,
Yes.
so it's it's Tilton,
what do they call it? Social media.
yeah. But the PD has a Facebook. So, yeah. So my guess is, yeah. So the fire
Alert would
department,
be a good.
We
That's
I
a
think
do
the
the
fire
alert.
department has one as well.
What
great.
is that?
Instagram, X.
No. Tilton, Northfield.
Northfield,
talking.
Tilton talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got nothing to do with the town.
So yeah, it has nothing to do with the
Oh,
town.
does it?
No.
No.
So the way anytime that I've been doing something for like the parade and stuff, I'll make a copy of whatever the PD posts or whatever, town, and then I'll share it under mine as well. So there's opportunities that we can do that.
And we can use the message board?
Yep.
Absolutely good.
Yeah, I
Message
think that's
board.
a really
Yep.
good idea.
Yep.
Our Facebook, we have 780 followers, so it goes out to a lot of
Mhm.
people
Yeah.
that then share it.
That's not even a third of our population.
No, but
We have 11,000. So
it gets out.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
We have 11,000.
Yeah, it gets out.
Yeah.
So
Alert works
It's
very
almost
well.
4 times. No, that's 3 times.
so yeah, I
And that will be on the 16th.
That's the 16th,
So we
right?
can,
yeah.
That's
So
going to
plan
be a
on that,
lengthy
Chief.
meeting.
We need to get the public aware now.
Right.
Yeah, we
Right.
do. It's
We
only
need to
2
get
weeks
the
away.
message
So
board out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
so what time are we planning on? At the same time we would have our normal meeting.
Normal meeting, and I was going to check with Selectman Constantino and get, a 2-hour block, I would think.
I would say 2 hours.
Mhm.
Just to
You
be on
know,
the safe
was-
side.
yeah.
At
Yes.
least,
I think
So-
2 hours we could probably.
if we do a good job publicizing it, at least, yeah.
5 o'clock to
Okay.
7.
So you want to do that, Chief?
I was looking.
You got anything going on? You don't have the room booked or anything, right?
Nope, everything's good there.
Okay, so the 16th at 5 o'clock, and then we'll do our meeting at 4:45, right? We get there at 4:45, do our normal pledge of allegiance, some opening stuff.
Bare bones.
Works for me.
Yeah, bare
Okay.
bones, and then spend the majority there.
So I have some it's direction. We'll get started on
Okay.
it. So I'm just waiting to hear back from Nancy. She, District 3 engineer, she had reached out to some people at DOT that she wanted to come. So I don't know who that was. I just am assuming like the right of way folks and anybody else. So
Yeah, before we
so
post it anywhere, we need to make sure that
they're coming.
confirming that they're coming.
Right. That was. But I just wanted the board's direction. So.
Quite frankly, and if they didn't come to conversation, we could listen to people
That's a
and
good
make a
idea.
list of,
And make a list of
Absolutely.
everything.
and,
Absolutely.
and not to lose any time on it, but,
Right? Yeah.
you know,
No, that's a good idea.
Yep.
Because Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and that's it for me, Mr. Chairman. I am all set. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Okay, well, almost ready. I think you got a couple more people coming. We're way ahead of schedule.
Yes.
So, believe
Yeah,
it's a
we're-
good thing.
We're moving right along. See? We're moving right along. We wanted to make it easy for you, John.
So let's see what else we have. Go a little bit into the budget, or if any selectmen have any other topics that they want to bring up.
Don't.
I think Tim, and Scott didn't mention, but as you can see, we have smoke detectors
Oh,
and a new alarm panel installed. I saw them down there working on it.
nice.
Is
Wait for
everything
that.
working good?
We're almost complete. We,
Right there.
So
yeah, we still have.
Tim can give us an update on it a little bit.
Yeah. In fact, if
Right
you
there.
want, I can run down the first three items.
That's the new.
There.
I can run down the first three items quickly on my report if you like.
Okay.
They're so close to each other.
That's-
What?
They have to be a certain distance
They have to
off
be
the
a certain.
wall
Yeah, they have to be a certain distance off the wall.
and away from fans and, stuff like that.
Cool.
So anyway, Tim does have some information he can share with us.
Yeah, I'm just to take up about the first 10 minutes before you're with your next appointment. Just very quickly on my report in your binders, the Toyota Tacoma that was approved to be sold last year was completed before the end of the year, and then also still going through the process with different fiber companies. But I haven't been able to get a significant savings at this point, so I'm still working on some negotiations there. So nothing really significant to report. As Selectman Scanlon just noted, that the smoke detectors are in, the new fire panel is installed, it's communicating via IP over our fiber link, and that our other security system will be doing the same once the completion of the project is done. And so we're waiting on that last piece, which should be within the next week, possibly tomorrow. And once that's done, I'll be able to cancel out phone lines that we have here that we no longer need. So other than that, item number 2, so this was an unexpected repair that cropped up on the very last day of the year. The transmission in one of the pickup trucks was reported to have a problem, was not acting properly or functioning. And the mechanic over in Northfield who we utilize had in the past worked for Amco and Concord. Director Dow got prices from a number of places, including Amco as well as Bo Auto. And there was about $1,000 difference between the max that we would pay for a rebuilt transmission. The difference was through this one vendor, came with a 1-year parts and labor warranty. So it was tentatively approved to be able to use 24 monies if the board was in agreement with this. So we did approve that, but it can be rescinded at your meeting tonight if you so choose. But the rest of the truck is determined to be good and not at its end of life. So I would like a consensus to rebuild the transmission up to a maximum of $3,500.
How many miles on it?
83,000.
83?
That's it.
16 years old? That's not bad.
Yeah.
I know that
300
because
plus on the Suburban out there.
I'm not surprised.
So the
I-
max is 3,500. It could be less than that. They're going to
Yes.
rebuild what needs to be done.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Pat, good.
you still with us?
Pat, you're
He is
muted.
just muted right now. Might be busy.
Okay, I'm here.
And did you catch that?
I did. I don't have any comment. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Then the last item before getting into more the budget and everything else is the copier contract. So this is the same contract we had last year. We have 4 copiers, 3 of which are on time and materials basis. provided by the same company. And this is for the now 1-year-old copier. And it includes all parts and service for that copier. And so this is the amount that we budgeted last year. This is the same price for 2025. And however, it is over the $1,500 limit. So I'm requesting that the board, if you're so in agreement, that you consider making that motion that I have in my report and authorizing me to sign the agreement.
I'll move that we approve the 2025 copier service agreement with Alternative Copier Decisions in the amount of $2,232 and authorize the finance director to sign the agreement.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Unanimous.
Thank you.
So moved.
And I'll pick back up once you're done with your next appointment.
Okay, we're all set. You want to come on down? Up?
Keep going, Tim.
Okay.
I think there's someone,
Oh,
someone coming
I hear
upstairs now.
footsteps.
No, not the chief. Okay, so let's see. The budget is going to be somewhat of a involved discussion. If we could move to my item number 5 on the second page, which is the warrant article for elderly exemption and income limits. So this was originally presented at your meeting of December 5th and then discussed at your 19th meeting of the 19th. Do you want to pause this now that everyone's here?
Sure, I
Okay.
think we can move right ahead and have the fire commissioners and the fire chief. You guys want to come on up? Right up here come right up to the table. Yeah.
You want to go to the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was giving you a comfortable seat. And it's warm. I said, it's warm.
Tim, how are you? Happy New Year. Chief? Good.
Hey, Chief.
Paul, how are you doing?
Awesome, thanks.
Chief, you got a mic there? You got a mic? You got a mic? Anybody else? Enough? Paul? That's on, Paul. And Tim, you can share.
Okay, thank you. All right, it's talking about too.
Yes, we wanted
Okay.
to get a copy of it.
Well, I gotta send you the one. All right, there's another one. Right? It's on the table. I did see that, yes, I had.
Okay, so we're going to have to make sure we use the mics. Pat is joining us. So she won't be able to hear unless we all use microphones and do that. So we're here with the Tilton Northfield Fire Commissioners and the Fire Chief to discuss and go over the fire station proposal. We were scheduled for doing the parking, but we don't have the survey information in yet. He had just said he's going to be putting the pins in and doing that. He's real close. So yes, we could just a little bit longer. Yeah, if you want to, who's going to start off? Tim?
I guess I'll start off.
Yeah.
And I have a number of things that I'm prepared to speak to, but if we want to start with the building committee and what they're working on based on the charge that we came up with is where I
Okay,
think
yeah.
you want to start.
I think, why don't we start right with that?
So, okay, thank you. So the commissioners developed I don't want to use the word charge just yet, a thought process of what we saw, based on the survey that was sent out and the results that came back, and if we want to go into specific detail on that, I will certainly ask Paul Blaisdell to speak on that. So we came up with an initial outline of a charge for the building committee to work with. And the anticipation was that they would use this coming year, 2025, to put that all together so that at the 2026 district meeting, we would be able to present a full project with some schematics, diagrams, floor plans, and cost analysis. So we had put that together and then met with the building committee and discussed the detail with which we had come together. And the request from the building committee through that conversation was, we need some more specific information. Which trucks are you going to want at which station? How do you want the rooms laid out? Where do you want admin? So the commissioners asked the chief and the two deputy chiefs to get together and review the what we had come up with in addition to the report that we had done for what rooms were needed to meet the needs of the fire department. And the chief came up with the recommendations, which you see on the top of your packet that we handed out. Is that correct so far?
Sure.
So this was this was what we provided as commissioners, and the chiefs went through and added more detail about what their vision was for the best solution for the building committee to put together that we could present at the 2026 district meeting. And we can go into all the detail there depending on where your questions go.
Are you looking to us to approve these recommendations?
No, we're
or
just here
put
to
a-
answer your questions. I can give you sort of a summary of what we're thinking, which I think is laid out pretty clear there. But based on the survey, we're looking at a two-station solution, one being at the current location on Park Street, the other being up at Sanborn Road next to the police station. We're looking at both facilities would have the ability to house firefighters. We're looking to do it in a phased approach where we would do Sanborn Road first so that we could move the firefighters out of the current station based on all the health and safety issues that we have there to the Sanborn Road facility. That would also free up the Center Street garage space for when we do work down on Park Street if we need that space to store equipment, depending on how the project ends up evolving down at Park Street. And then once the two facilities are built, we would then move to remove the Center Street station so that we could turn that over to the town as previously discussed. The idea is that currently the current staff would be staffed at Park Street, and then future staff would then be staffed up at Sanborn Road. And part of the reasoning behind that, which I think is outlined in there, is while we're seeing tremendous growth up there at exit 20, and in the future we'd like to have an ambulance at both locations that could respond, the more immediate fire risk is downtown, because all the new construction up at exit 20 from a fire risk standpoint is typically modern building with fire sprinklers, versus downtown where we have the older buildings, more densely populated with more residents in those buildings, that we would want to be able to respond to a fire from downtown, from Park Street. I think that's reasonably accurate. So we would start with Sanborn Road, then phase 2 would be the Park Street. The fire crew would move to Sanborn Road until Park Street was completed. Then the current staff would go down to Park Street. And then when we got to the point where we needed to hire more firefighters for future fire call growth at some point down the road, we would then be able to have firefighters at both locations.
Maybe I misunderstood. There would be no fire presence in Tilton for a year, 2 years?
Well, once the whole project's complete, the firefighters would be at Park Street.
Okay,
Yes.
I got that part. And there'd be no firefighters here on Sanborn Road
And the way it's currently.
until someday in the future, maybe.
Correct. Now that sort of, I would leave that to the chief and the deputy chief as to how they best wanted to locate their firefighters, and that would be based on a couple things. And I'm sure the chief or the deputy chief could speak more about the pros of having all 4 of the firefighters together for response and training, and then how that would migrate when the call volume increased.
So the new building, that's where you're going to house all the newer staff, right? That would come in, because it says I think you're looking to hire 8 more.
That would certainly be a decision of the chief at the time of how we separate the staff. But as newer firefighters would probably not be by themselves down there.
Yeah.
We would have more experienced staff at the Sanborn Road Station with a new firefighter.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah. No, we're not.
Okay.
We're not going to put anybody out there
All right.
that is
And
unexperienced.
as it was explained to me, if you had 6 firefighters, we'd probably have the 2 most experienced with the 2
Yep.
newest together, and then 2 of
So
you.
my other question is, how, knowing, right, that staffing is already difficult, how feasible do you think it will be to get and hire that many staff in the next 2 years?
Well, I don't know if we'd be hiring anybody within the next 2 years to staff an additional station. I think it'd be probably more 3, maybe 4 years down the road, depending upon how quickly the building process goes. We certainly have no room right now to add additional staff.
Yeah.
None.
No.
And so during phase 1, after phase 1 is complete, when Sanborn Road is complete, we would be able to move our staff from Center Street to Sanborn Road. And that would be fully staffed with the 4 firefighters that we have now on duty 24/7.
Right. Okay.
Yes. I see
One quick,
Chuck got his hand up. Pat?
looks like Chuck.
Kathy, turn your volume down. Yeah, this is Chuck Mitchell. I'm just curious. Once there's a tremendous amount of or number of accidents on Route 3, and I can't imagine closing down a Sanborn station, a Sanborn Road station, with all the accidents that are currently happening on Route 3, and then having to bring the fire engines up from Northfield. Thank you.
Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Chuck. It's the fire chief's intentions, now whether that would be supported by the community or not, is when both stations be open, we would be staffing both stations with 4 firefighters at Park Street and 2 firefighters on Sanborn Road. It'd be a shame to, build a several $1 million building and not staff it. And with the way our call volume is, we think it's needed, that staffing would be needed, and that when those buildings are complete, we're going to have that staffing. That's just the progress of things. And of course, we understand that would have to have the support of the fire district for that to go forward.
Mhm.
It
I
sounds
have a
like
question.
you're building a building
Okay.
that requires more staff instead of we have an existing staff and dividing them amongst 2 new buildings.
That is true. The way, the most efficient way a fire department works is with an engine company. You have to have, it's most efficient with 4 people on one fire engine. And when you split that, and we would have that 4 personnel fire engine at Park Street after this was all said and done, only because the severe fire danger that we have in our fire district is in the village district area. All these buildings are densely packed with people. The construction is very old. There's little to no sprinkler systems and little to no monitored fire alarm systems. So the risk of fire is in this downtown area is pretty high, actually. And so that's why we'd want the 4 staffed engine at the Park Street station, followed by the 2 firefighters on an engine or a ladder, depending upon what type of call was being called, or an ambulance to come from the Sanborn Road area. In the meantime, the Sanborn Road station staffed with 2 people to begin with, and I assume over a period of time that staffing would increase probably to 4 or so as our calls increase. Still can handle the ambulance, still can get an engine out to do car accidents and things like that. All our engines are able to, equipped equally and able to handle any type of emergency.
Pat's got a question.
Well, Catherine asked part of my question, but what was the process, the thought process in the committees to come up with the idea of starting Park Street first and then Sanborn a couple of years later? That's my first question, and then I'll come up with the other one.
Pat, I'll answer that.
Yeah.
Actually, we would start Sanborn Road first for the reason of being able to free up Center Street to house equipment that might be displaced when we do Park Street. The reason for doing it all together is so that we can project to the district members the total cost of the entire completed project. And what we were trying to avoid or knowing wouldn't happen, or I'm not quite sure the right verbiage is, if we went out for some sort of payment method on phase 1 and say it was a 20-year note, when would we be able to go back to the taxpayers for phase 2? So we wanted to bundle it all together, that we're looking at a long-term solution. So we don't have to come back in a couple of years to start phase 2. We're going to know what the whole package is going to cost right at the start. We won't do it all at once. It'll be phased. But that was the mindset, that, to get the district buy-in was to show a complete solution that will service the needs, not just for our current needs, but for some amount into the future.
Okay, so you're going to go to town meeting and say, here's the whole entire package. This year we're going to do this year we're going to do that, and this is what it's going to cost. This is the entire package. For years, we have tried to do exactly that, and we said, okay, but we're going to start Northfield, or we're going to start Tilton, and it's never worked for one reason or another. As soon as somebody says, we're going to start either Northfield or Tilton first, for some reason, mines get shut off, and it's like, that ain't happening. So, and we lose. And we lose. And just a very, very, very short percentage of both our towns at the annual meeting. And it's a shame. But I like what you're saying to me now, that you're going to do the entire package over time. This is what we're going to do. I don't particularly care about the 8 extra people, but it is what it is. It's my opinion. Thanks.
Go ahead.
My name is Paul Blaisdell. I'm the chairman of the building committee. And I've got a couple statements. One is that we spent a significant amount of time and money this year sending out a survey to all the taxpayers in Tilton and Northfield. Because one of the things we'd been fighting with at the last 3 building proposals at district meeting was we as commissioners or the building committee came up with projects that we thought would pass the votership, but also fulfill the needs of the district. And what we found out was that we didn't know what the district was willing to fund, was willing to vote for. Hence, the 78-page or so survey that we sent to all the taxpayers this year. And there are a couple key takeaways from that. Number one is that the chief's recommendation, and when I say the chief's recommendation, I'm not talking about just Chief Sitar. I'm talking about Deputy Chief Valvani and Mike Robinson, the other deputy chief. So the 3 of them is, when I say chief's recommendation, that's what I'm talking about, which is the first 2 pages of your packet. And I'll say that the chief's recommendation was the most popular first choice from the survey. What we learned was that the people that we offered the first 3 choices, first, second, and third. The first choice was that recommendation. The most popular overall, which was the first and second combined, first choice and second combined, was to have a manned station in Sanborn Road and an unmanned station in Northfield. And that was by 1%. So having Sanborn Road was common to both the first and second choices. The first choice by 1% was to have Northfield unmanned, and the second was to have Northfield manned. So we're, as a building committee, and certainly as the commissioners and the fire department administration, instead of going by innuendo and what we think will pass, we actually went out and asked the voters. So while there is no proposal that is going to be perfect for every taxpayer of both towns, the proposal that you see, or the recommendation that you see in front of you, has, according to the statistics, the best possibility of passing. But more importantly, it fulfills the needs of the fire district, not just today and tomorrow, but 20 years from now. Thank you.
Oh, I have some, I think when you guys folks came to us almost a year ago, right before the survey time, I mentioned that when we did our police station, the key thing that got it through was multiple meetings, public hearings, lots of input. So when you rely on just one survey and don't bring it out to the public, that's when you run into problems. I would hope that you would have some more public input, talk sessions, and because I think when we originally had a PD, it was absolutely not. No, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it again. And then we got into, well, what would it take to get it done? This is why, and face to face, and get the community on board with it and hear it, because the people that apply or actually reply to the surveys may not have been the whole consensus of the towns together. So I think that's very important to not just rely on the survey for the information.
Well, I totally agree with you. We intend on having extensive public outreach, public sessions to find out how our proposal fits in with everybody's needs and wants and desires. I disagree with you to a small extent because every taxpayer in the two towns received that survey. If they cared enough to answer it and submit it back to us, their thoughts and wishes and desires would be included in those results. So I'm a little, I guess, I'm not sure how better to reach out to everyone other than to have informational meetings. But at the end of the day, everybody had the opportunity to have their opinion voiced. Thank you.
You keep saying everybody, and you keep saying you send it to every taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer, and I didn't even know that form existed.
I'll let the chief reply to that because this survey was administered by the University of New Hampshire, and they sent it to every address that the fire district provided to the university. So
So either I'm not listed in your fire district records, or the University of New Hampshire messed up. Heaven forbid. But I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be, hey, you're at fault here, or any of you guys are at fault. But not everybody got those surveys. Me being one, and maybe I'm the only one, but not everybody got it.
The survey center, UNH Survey Center, contracted with a vendor to make sure that every address in the fire district received the survey.
He dropped the ball.
I'm sorry, Jim.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
I just wanted to pick up on what Paul was saying. Additionally, in the contract we have with Lorero, there is a set of there's an amount of money that's specified for them to assist us with that public outreach and provide us with materials for that. Additionally, the commissioners are working towards putting together, I don't want to use the word marketing, but for lack of a better word, a marketing group, a marketing committee of local district members to assist with that process. And so if anybody on the select board thinks of anybody they might want to suggest that we contact to be on that, well, certainly contact the fire station and let us know. Additionally, we're going to put together a small group of people to look at the best route to go for financing options, because we have a few. We have a fund that we're going to tap into. We want to talk about use of some other funds and how best to approach this phased project to minimize the amount that we're going to be needing through taxation. So there'll be another committee there. We already have some people in mind for that. But again, if the selectmen have anybody they think would be a good help for that, we would ask you to, again, share that with us so we can put together a group for that. Because we absolutely agree. We need to educate the users, because what we hear is we have amazingly professional, well-trained, compassionate, empathetic firefighters show up with all the equipment they need, but the district has no idea what we're working out of over here. And from their aspect, I got what I needed when I dialed 911. They came and they provided the service I needed. So we need to educate the district voters on why we need to move forward.
I think, and the same thing happened when we did the park downtown, Riverfront. We had dozens of hearings on it. And, I think Pat Clark was quite big on heading up those meetings, which was a great help it was a great help to get those things through and adjust them appropriately to what would work, or, maybe some tweak it a little bit. But those are, the public input was things that made the projects work on it.
Yeah. I would agree. I think making sure you guys are doing your due diligence to make sure that you're getting out there and getting as many, eye contacts with people as possible. I mean, we all know that that's the best way to do it, right? So,
In the past, the district hasn't always been that good at the reach out part and the informational part and the educational part. I was on one of those fire station committees, and Lord knows we tried to answer the same issues and questions that you have before you today. And probably for less money, but be that as it may, what's going to make it different this time? Anybody?
Well, we hope the public outreach part will be much better than before. And it's part of Lareo's contract is to help us with the public outreach so that the public is better educated as to what they're voting for.
But those are typically maybe a couple of meetings, maybe 3 at tops when you contract like that. I mean, we've done it. That's usually all there is. And it's usually just before getting prepared for town meeting. What we're talking about is now, getting people involved now, your residents involved now. And John's right. When we built Riverfront Park, it was over a span of a couple of years. And we publicized our regular meetings. I was on that committee. I mean, we're meeting, and we set aside a time, a block, so the public could see public input. That was their time. If they wanted to come and vent and yay or nay, they could. But I don't see that happening with your committee. I have gone, I wonder what happened to the Fire District Budget Building Committee, and have looked on the Tilton calendar and have found it. Oh, look. But if I hadn't thought about it,
had to go look for
I would have no idea that they were meeting or still meeting. It needs to be out there.
yeah, definitely.
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
If I might reply to Joe's comment about, or question, what's different this time? I can honestly say that with the input we've received from both towns and the input from the chiefs, what we're proposing this year, or it'll be 2026, is not the cheapest one station solution. What we've done is we've listened to the townspeople, we've listened to the chiefs, and Northfield will get a building, Tilton will get a building. Both of them will be equivalent in their capacity to store both equipment and house people. And most importantly, you have to remember that the members of the fire district are employees of the fire district, and by extension, they're employees of us. the townspeople, the taxpayers. And this is pretty amazing. This is one of the statistics from the survey. 97% of the respondents said that the quality of service that they received from the fire district was either good or very good. 97%. So we don't have a problem providing good service. But what we're doing is we're asking those employees to do it, to provide that service in an unsafe building without proper separation between contaminated gear and their living quarters. A building that, if I had $1 for every time I knocked my head going up those stairs, I'd be a millionaire. Oh, yeah. It's an unsafe building. And we're not only asking these gentlemen and women to work in that building, we're asking them to sleep in that building, to live in 24-hour shifts in that building. If I venture to guess that if we had the state fire inspector come to that building, he would say, you're not allowed to have anyone in that building. So my point is that what we're trying to do through the guidance of that survey is to provide the best accommodations for our employees while still providing the very best service to both Northfield and Tilton. And there is no perfect way to do that. There's no cheap way to do that. But what I honestly feel is that this is the best solution to those issues. Thank you.
Eric?
I just have two questions. One, how many people in both towns responded to your survey? 475 total. Do you have a breakdown of each town? How many from Tilton? How many from Northwood?
In there somewhere. There's 80 pages.
So maybe I could ask my other question. Is there a possibility that we can get a copy of that survey? It is
on
public,
our
right?
website.
It's on your website?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Nope, go ahead.
60% of that 475 live in Northfield.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, I've been in the building. I did trainings in that building. I get it. I've whacked my head a few times on that. I haven't been in there in a while, but I do remember. And I know what it's like to be in a building that really is not in good shape. And I mean, we dealt with it with the police department. So, I mean, I get it. I think you are going to definitely have to continue and really make a concerted effort on your outreach. And I didn't even know about this survey. So I would suggest making sure that you're blasting that out there. You guys have a Facebook page. Do you have social media and stuff like that? I would start throwing it out there and doing little tidbits like you just did here with the 97%. Throw those tidbits in there continuously. I would regularly put those things out there to show what you're doing. I do. I have a teenage daughter and a high college. So, but yeah, that's you know what you could do if you go to the high school and they do have a media over there, and I think so does the Hewitt Tech, which covers. They have a full media station which actually covers Northfield because we have all of our kids from Northfield, Tilton, Samerton all go there. So I'm telling you, that's going to be your way to get it out there, is through your social media.
To be honest with you, our focus has been to this point in determining what our needs are.
Yep.
We had scheduled about a year ago preliminary meetings with the public at Home Memorial Library.
Yep.
And we decided to back off that until we had a firm proposal, until we had something to show. So
yep.
I accept your, not criticism, but your contribution that we should be focusing on that now as well.
Yeah, I would. Honestly, I mean, I would be getting whatever solid information that you have now that you know will be something that, if everything were approved, it would stick and it would go. Because even if it's just these little informational tidbits about what things are going on, like you look at, your police departments, your fire departments around the country, utilizing your social media to give those tidbits on things is huge. Even if it has nothing to do with the building itself, and it has to do with your officers, your work you do, right? The fire departments, you guys throw out information about the training you do, right? Your water rescue trainings and things like that. People love to see those things. Doing those things and adding those things to your portfolio and throwing those tidbits in about the building or about your scheduled your proposals, that will be helpful. It will be. I know I would like to see things about your survey. I just think it's important. That's just my,
thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
honestly, I would do stuff like that. It really can be a very helpful thing.
By the way, I answered my survey. Just want you to know.
All right. I'm all set.
Anything else on the fire station proposal? Tim, is
Oh,
Pat
Joe
around?
had one more too.
No, she dropped off for a little bit, but she left some instructions. So she'll be back on for your non-public.
Okay.
And she asked me to just update her on a couple of the budget items.
Okay.
So.
Somebody else? Joe?
I will say, just so there's no mistake, I support the fire district, and I always liked the two-station solution. And I will support that this time around. I just don't want to see anybody. It was very disappointing to spend all the time that we spent trying to get this done before, only to get spanked at the meeting. And we were trying to reach out, and we don't have the tools now or then that we do now, whether it be social media. I get in touch with somebody from the Echo. They're always looking for articles to run and what have you about things that are going on around the town. Helps them sell papers.
And take the information from, like Joe said, that didn't go so well. Take the criticism and the comments and the questions that they had or whatever, and just be prepared to say, hey, well, we overcame this, right? We overcame this one, and this is how, right? And honestly, because then, someone's criticizing you and you have an answer for it that stops that criticism, then they got nothing to say. Well, they will, but it just won't. But it just won't have a good, strong basis. So, that's all I have.
Anything else on that?
I just, additionally in the packet we gave you is our budget
Yes.
and the warrant articles. And then we thought it might be interesting, the chief report
For December.
for December that
Yep.
he'll be presenting to the commissioners at our meeting
Yep, I
Absolutely.
briefly scanned
Thank you.
through that. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So maybe,
The only other thing I would like to offer is that we will try to do a better job of meeting with you and communicating with you. And by all means, feel free to invite us or ask us questions.
that's how we get
We're,
things done.
we're certainly
We
not
can do it.
opposed to getting together and keeping everybody up to date.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be very important over this next year to really make sure we're connecting regularly.
Happy to do so.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Chief.
Mr. Chairman, might I suggest that we invite the chief to the 16th meeting tentatively if it's going to be a go. I think I might have discussed it with you, Chief, with the state, meeting with the state, but that'll be done at the police station.
Yeah.
We'll firm it up for sure, but I'll send out an email too.
5 o'clock. Okay. Well, you'll get there earlier.
The entire public is invited.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
I don't know if you want to go over the budget a little bit and tell us what's going on there.
Want me to? Yeah, sure. So we've fairly pretty much completed our budget process in record time this year. We're still not having meetings, so that was good. Overall, at the end of the process, the first process was me developing a budget. And then I brought that budget before the fire commissioners. The fire commissioners reviewed that budget and made adjustments to that budget as they saw fit. And then once they were done with the budget, I took the budget to the budget committee, and they followed through, line by line, the whole budget, and then they made their adjustments as they saw fit as well. In the end, I was actually proposing a little bit more than 7% increase. And what came out in the wash is like a 4.4% increase in the operating budget.
Does that include any new firefighters?
No, it's no new firefighters. We currently have 2 firefighter openings, but no
But
new
those
no
two
new
are in there,
positions.
right?
Yes, no new positions. Just trying to fill.
How long have those 2 positions been open?
Just very recently.
Any prospects already?
We have an applicant.
There you go. It's not somewhere.
Also, our part-time administrative assistant left, and so we're advertising for that position as well.
Really?
Yes.
When are you gonna start showing plans for this? What does Sanborn Street look like? What does Park Street look like? And when does that occur in the process?
So I hope to be having a meeting with Lorero sometime next week. They're supposed to get to me tomorrow to give me a specific time. And they have all of this already. And they're supposed to start developing floor plans that we in the building committee can go over to make sure it's going to work. And shortly thereafter, we'll be sharing that information.
And I would like to ask as a follow-up, you guys are all good with this? Okay.
John, can I make a comment?
Sure.
I just wanted to comment on when you talk about budget increases, I certainly understand that within the district budget, but I'd also ask the commissioners and the chief to take into account what that's going to translate to in terms of apportionment, because our apportionment for 2024 increased by 26.2% for the fire district from year to year. So we went up $465,000 in tax out of pocket for Tilton residences and businesses. And that, while your budget, I'm sure, did not reflect a 26% increase, maintaining and being cognizant of what the budget increase translates to in terms of apportionment, I think is a really important thing, because it affects the taxpayers that are going to be voting for the budget. And that was a really tough tough
Bill to
tax
swallow.
bill to really swallow. So just wanted to make that comment.
I can say that after we got all the information from DRA this year, that I believe it's like Tilton is paying 66% of the fire district's budget. And in our budget going forward, using the budget committee's numbers, our operating budget is $3.710 million. And of that, 2.377 is Tilton and 1.332 is Northfield.
Does that reflect the number of calls or the population? Or what, how do you, I know, I know how it works, but a
Ironic,
lot of these people won't know.
ironically, well, the populations of both towns are actually getting closer and closer together. But ironically, the call volume breakdown is kind of like 66% Tilton, 34% Northfield in call volume.
That call volume you speak of is majority of that is paid back through insurance fees, is it not?
Well,
Or are you still having problem collecting those fees?
we always have problems collecting fees, but what I can tell you is that I was going over these figures today because I was able to do my some of my year-end analysis, is that in 2022, for every ambulance transport, the average payment was $507. Through, I don't know if you know, I've been working with the legislature trying to change laws about ambulance billings and stuff like that, and some of those have passed. We've evaluated what it actually costs for an ambulance transport at different levels and adjusted our rates as such. And when I did the analysis for the 2024 collections, that collection rate went up $627 per transport that we collect. It's not what we bill. The bills are certainly much higher, but when you take all the transports that we had, our percentage of collection rate is going up. This year we collected about $65,000 more in ambulance revenue with less transports than the previous year. So we're working very hard on it, and I'm pleased with the way it's going. And there's still legislation that I'm working on, trying to improve our collections and the ability to collect.
That's been a long time coming. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's not easy.
No.
Tough subject. I don't see anything there for pressurized hydrants. Where?
What's in there?
It's in there.
It's in there.
Okay, where is it?
It's
Right here. Page,
I hate to bring that one up.
page 8,
It's a big one.
right on the top.
Well, I get nothing in the budget
It's so
on
it's,
8.
it's actually in the operating budget.
Oh, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me find it exactly where it is.
Oh, the previous.
The $175,220 this year, and it will go up 4% next year as well.
Will you be drawing 4% more water?
It all depends.
Will they be building 4% more hydrants? Why is it, why?
That was the agreement, the court-ordered agreement. Well, we had a mediation session with the water commissioners and the fire commissioners, had a mediation session. And they, as you know, we were in a lengthy litigation process, and we're going to go to trial. And both sides thought it'd be better just to mitigate this out. And we spent a whole day mediating out an agreement, and it's a 7-year agreement that allows for a 4% increase in the fire district's apportionment to the water district every year.
Well, that's good for 7 years. See what-
That's good for the water district.
It's always been good for the water district.
Mhm.
What about Lockmere Village? Do they have a contract with the water district about hydrants and whatever?
So the Lockmere Water District, their fire hydrants are not suitable for
They're
firefighting
cleanouts.
purposes. They're just for flushing purposes. If we,
Yeah,
if,
I've seen them use them for fires.
I think if we hooked up our pump to that, one of those 2.5-inch discharges, we would collapse their system.
Suck all the water right
Hmm.
out of the whole system.
Where do you get water up there? If my house was burning, what would you do?
The lake of the river.
On River Road, there's a dry hydrant there we would probably use.
When we had the fire on Church Street.
I remember they went up to Route 3, they hooked up to the hydrant, and they pumped water. I was there. I watched them do it.
But they also had a line down to the river.
I don't recall that. And I was there. I watched them do it.
It might not have been a line from that Church Street fire down to the river. It might have been we were using the dry hydrant and using a tanker shuttle to bring water back and forth.
That's what they were doing, shuttling.
Yeah.
But they were also using the river. But it was a shuttle effort.
Before my time.
I hear you say it, but I was standing right there. And they hooked up to a hydrant up on Route 3.
Nothing else burned down. It was a good thing.
No, the fire department,
Yeah.
in my experience, for me personally, because I had a tractor fire right by my house, totally good, totally. Firefighters driving by just happened to see the smoke and wheeled in and were helping until the fire department got there. The River Road fire, nothing but professional. Amazing. Watching you guys work is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
I'm glad you guys will respond if my house is on fire or I need ambulance service or whatever, and I wouldn't vote to change it at all.
Appreciate it.
So I don't see anything under the cistern of that. Is that still in the works for up on Caleb Hill Road?
Yes, that's supposed to be going in this winter. It's up to the contractor to actually do the work right now. And we have a cistern we're working on for Caleb Hill Road right now.
So that's scheduled to be done during the winter? Or?
The cistern, not yet. We still have to work out the legal details of that and the engineering of that. So that probably won't happen for several months.
It's already in the budget, or?
Yes, there's enough money in the budget to do both those projects right now. And so if once those get completed, we probably go back and ask for additional funding to put more money in that account.
Anything else? Anybody else have any questions? Or the public that's out there online?
I just want to let you know that the warrant articles you have in here are draft and have not really been approved by DRA or our attorneys yet. So some of the wording may change a little, but the intent will be the same.
We're working on our stuff too, so it's that time of year.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
No.
We're good. Well, thanks for coming in, and I think we're getting there slowly.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see you.
I know. And then it just
Perfect. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Scott, when that survey comes in, we can get that over to the chief so he can look at it. Then you guys can work together on what's going to go for, parking or whatever we have to changing.
Oh, yeah,
didn't
yeah,
get one
yeah,
either.
yeah.
Just was
Absolutely.
turning to you to ask if you got one.
This machine broke.
And I wouldn't even care except for he was so adamant that everybody had a chance to respond. Not
Son Mark
necessarily
got
true,
one.
Paul.
You got one addressed to him, but I didn't get one. So I've seen it.
I didn't even get
And I
that.
guess I could have duplicated his and responded, but I thought,
I didn't even know it existed.
Scott,
I'm sorry?
could you pull out, we have an agreement on that land on Salmon Road
Yeah.
with the commissioners?
Yes. Him and I talked about that.
I think we need to review it.
Yeah.
I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Well, if we go forward, there'll have to be a warrant article.
There was a draft letter for the board.
I didn't
And
think we had a response, did we?
I'd have to go back and look whether the board had approved signing it.
I don't think we got a response.
I
In fact, I thought it was rejected.
I think Tim's right because I asked that question and then I sent it to the board. And I believe the fire chief told me if I have an email somewhere that says it was left in the hands of the fire commissioners to report back and they hadn't done so. So the ball's
Well,
on their end.
and I had written a draft memorandum of understanding for the board during the summer, and I don't believe that was ever executed by the board. So, and I can resend it out.
I was
It's-
told at that time that the building committee rejected that proposal. And it just
I
didn't go anywhere. That's why there
doubt
was no
they saw it.
response.
Actually, but
Nevertheless,
yeah.
Agreement that we had regarding the transfer property.
we need to,
Down here, and
according to
Salmon
this, look
Road.
at it again.
Yes.
it's still up in the air, that whole agreement.
Oh, okay.
Selectman Scanlon, would you like me to pick back up
Sure.
where I was? So on the second page of my report, since I started on the elderly exemption and income limits, so originally this was presented at the meeting of December 5th and then discussed by the board at the meeting of December 19th. And it seemed as though the board was in agreement on the increasing the income limits from 26,000 to 28,000 for singles and from 34,000 to 40,000 for married couples. So the discussion that ensued was more regarding how much to increase the elderly exemptions by age group. And the proposal was originally $30,000 for each level, and there was some discussion about having that. So what you see here in my report is showing what that would mean at $15,000 for each level. And I've provided a proposed motion for the board if you'd like to move forward with this so that we can put it on the warrant and with those figures. And Selectman Constantino had reviewed these and was in agreement with these figures. Yes.
Why are we giving married couples more per person than single people? Single person is a $2,000 increase. The
Right, so-
married couple is
So if you look in your binder under the under the income limits. The discussion that we had at the last meeting where it seemed as though the board was completely in agreement with the income increases.
Correct.
It shows the distribution by town, and there's a gap. There was a gap between single and married. The former gap was there as well. So I guess I don't have a better answer than that. It is just what was proposed and originally by Lauren and discussed with Pat and myself, and seemed to be in keeping with the other towns.
So if you have a house that somebody's living in, a couple is living in, and they're paying $5,000 a year in taxes on it, you have two people paying it. Why is it that if there's only one person left to pay that bill, that they have a different limit? I mean, you still have to come up with the same $5,000, except actually, if you have two incomes, you have more ability to do it. And the single person, a woman whose husband died, and has that,
Well,
they're not getting the same
the limit
benefit.
is lower for a single than a married, obviously.
What is? What is?
So the single limit, the proposed is 28, married is 40, so it's lower.
Okay.
I mean, which you
Correct.
would, you know.
So they receive an exemption if their income falls below that level, is what this amounts to.
Right.
These are the ceilings, right?
Because of the
They cannot
ceilings,
exceed
right. They
this.
cannot exceed 28,000 if they're single, or 40,000 if they're a married couple.
Right.
That's
But
correct.
the tax bill, either way, the house is paying for that $5,000 tax. But if somebody
gonna come from
is single, they're gonna, if
It's
let's
going to hurt
say,
a little more. They
they
may
have-
have to sell and move.
it just
Unfortunately.
doesn't seem,
Well, you can,
they
you
could
can
be getting a survival benefit, a survivor's benefit on that, which,
You can only
throws
collect
them over
either
the
Social
28.
Security or Survivor. You can't collect both. That changed a few
Right.
years ago.
It's gonna be,
You're going to get one or the other.
it's gonna be tough for that
That is.
person. Is it's a big
I
$12,000
don't,
difference.
looking at the statistics for Belknap County and Merrimack County, even though, what is this, 22, 23 information, we would be about in the middle ball field, raising the income limits to the 28 and the 40.
That's correct.
And that includes in the Merrimack County side as well. The proposal for the exemption would send us to the, third highest in Belknap County for exemptions. And in Merrimack, actually, it would put us probably somewhere in the middle. What's interesting is Northfield's. Their elderly exemption for 65 to 74 is 150,000. 75 to 79, they're 162, and 80 over is 205,000.
So these are asset limits that you're looking at. Their assets cannot exceed that.
Northfield's asset limits are
Big.
31,800 for a single. Married is 43. Oh no, that was single income and
Those are
married income.
income,
I'm sorry.
Income, not
Single
income, not
asset limit is 50 and married asset limit is 50, the same. I thought that was interesting. Whether you're single or married is 50,000 asset.
So the question remains,
I would say yes to the proposed income limits. Considering our new appraisal, I would go with the suggested half of what was proposed before.
So the 15,000.
Yeah.
so that happens to be what that
Yeah.
suggested motion reads.
What do you think, John?
I can't agree with the single income limit.
The what?
Single income limit. It should be a household limit.
That can be anything.
Yes, you can make it whatever you like if there's a different number you have in mind. But they don't go by a household limit. The law is either single or married.
Right.
And the law is the property owner is responsible for the tax bill. So if there's only one property owner, you're single, a single property owner, not necessarily unmarried, but one property owner. You could have two property owners and not be married. But or one single property owner, that's the proposal. What's the proposal?
This is a ballot question, so.
This would be a warrant article.
No,
would
this
it not?
is a
This would
warrant
be a warrant
article.
article.
Yep, this is a warrant article. It would be on the warrant.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and it could be changed at town meeting. I mean, the numbers could change.
Mhm.
You couldn't change the purpose, but
No, but they could change the numbers.
they could change the numbers.
I could go with that. I think a lot of the opinions could be voiced at the town meeting
Yes.
on it, and it could be tweaked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, after doing the road show with, I call it the road show, the discussion that we had with folks at the Hemlocks and many people that come into the town hall, I would expect that we're going to see a very good presence of elder folks that are going to be coming to town meeting, that are going to be looking at this specific issue with the income limit assessments and looking for an increase.
Mhm.
Just as many of them have been educated. Many of them that I've spoke to have done a lot of reading. And many of them have expressed or voiced an opinion that they will be in attendance at town meeting.
Mhm.
So
I hope they stay for the whole thing.
that's the
Make
question.
this the last warrant article.
Right
Um,
next to Pines, right?
All right. Anything, Joe?
I make a motion that we place on the town warrant the following changes to the elderly exemptions. Specifically, to increase the single income limit to $28,000 and the married income limit to $40,000. And furthermore, to raise exemptions from each age category by $15,000. Therefore, being 65,000 for ages 65 to 74, $95,000 for ages 75 to 79, and $140,000 for ages 80 plus.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved, unanimous.
Great, thank you. I have put a note in here about the year-end estimates, and you can read on the attached page what we have left. It is an estimate only, and you'll note that I showed the effect of the encumbrances, the banked PTO, and estimated December invoices. So the estimate for December could change quite a bit. It's just hard to tell at this point, but we'll still be receiving invoices through January for December activity, and we don't actually close everything until the end of February, as there are credit cards and other loans that get paid out for the year as late as the beginning of February. So in any case, other than that, the last item I have to review is the budget update. And as Selectman Jessman has already mentioned, they have a meeting next week on January 8th where they had yet to vote on the police department's budget or outside agencies, and they also have yet to vote on the sewer commission and Lockmere Village budgets. On the January 15th is their public hearing, and I would really like to have a complete budget that shows the selectmen's votes included in the budget document, so that anyone that attends that or reviews the budget prior to the public hearing has an opportunity to see the selectmen's thoughts on that. There were a few changes I made in this particular budget document that you received. So because the fees were adopted by the Board of Selectmen, I reduced the GIS line by $500 as applicants will now be paying for the fees. In fact, this last year, it was as much as $1,600 for those changes made for lot line adjustments. So that'll now be borne by applicants. In the IT budget, there was a bill that we received from Belknap County, or I should say from the application software vendor that the police department uses for items that are housed at Belknap County for the town of Tilton Police Department. And in researching that further, discovered that there's going to be a slight decrease in our application software at the end of the year. The net savings to us is $1,639, which is, in my view, pretty paltry compared to the effort that's had to gone into this so far, at least from a financial standpoint. But in any case, I did reflect that $1,639 reduction in the budget in IT software. And then also the new employee that is starting this next Monday in Department of Public Works, their actual wages and benefits were reflected based on the information that we received from them. And then also the equipment rental was reduced by half to reflect that they only rent a lift once a year now. So those were all fairly minor changes to the budget. And the document that you have in front of you is our current budget. And I'm happy to answer any further questions the board would have, or actually be very pleased to be able to record what the board votes on this evening.
So I've found in the past that the best way to do this is to, like for instance, take a look at administration, which is 4130.130 through 4299, which is on your pages 1, 2, and the top of page 3. Well, let's see, 1, 2. No, actually,
The
it's
administrative
page
budget.
2, 3, and top of page 4. And if we have any questions for Tim on that, then we can address them. And then at the end, we can, if we don't have any, we can just approve all of those lines at once and then jump to the next category.
Okay.
So Joe, I don't know if you heard me, but I was just discussing that what I found works in the past for this is if we go through the administrative budget, which is 4130.130 through 4299. If we have any questions on that or anything like that, we can bring it up. And if not, we'll just go ahead and I'd like to entertain a motion to accept those lines, which would be your pages 2, 3, and the top of page 4.
The number you're voting on is 787,079. So
No,
top of page.
we're voting on
786.
either one.
429.
Or whatever other figure somebody may come up with.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But thank you.
You're right. Good point.
Well, the difference there is the GIS mapping. It was originally voted on $3,650, and I reduced the department request because those fees are going to be paid for by the applicants. So it was reduced by $650 from the budget committee recommended. So their figure is actually higher than the department request at this point.
Anybody have any questions on any of the administrative budget line of submitted by the departments of $786,429? We're
No, I
good.
didn't see it
Anybody
before.
want to make a motion? I'll entertain that.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the total administration department budget of 787.
Oh.
Oh, no, what was it?
786,429?
Yes.
Is that what you're looking?
Yeah,
That was
782.
department heads, right.
Yep, 429.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on that? And so moved.
Oh, no, you have to
We gotta
say
vote.
who's voting.
Doesn't get moved till we vote.
You jumped ahead one
Yeah,
spot.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right on your toes, Joe.
So it passes.
Yes, that passed.
Yeah.
All right, so the difference in the town clerk tax collectors line of the department request of 155,535 and what the budget committee approved was primarily in two categories, and those appear on page 4. One is under town clerk tax collector training and dues. They reduced that by $500. The election preparation line was reduced by $800. And then, let's see, where was the other?
Wasn't it personnel, Tim?
Government reimbursement.
Government reimbursements, right. So that was 1,050. So that was the 2,350. Now it's really important that the training and dues is in there for this coming year. They just weren't able to take advantage of that this last year because of the number of elections and some other issues that cropped up during the year. And this is really critical for the deputy to get fully certified and attend these conferences. So, in any case, I would highly recommend the board not reduce that particular line. The other line that in election preparation, so the board had previously approved, and we encumbered $3,500 towards half the cost of a new voting machine, a new scanner, if you will. But the state also put on notice all the towns that we're going to have to buy our own accessible equipment in 2025, but they haven't told us how much that is or what we need. So there's some meetings coming up that are going to be discussing that for the town clerks. but we had put some money in for that into that election registration line, and the budget committee felt that that we didn't need to budget that at this time, or as much money for it at this time. But it's a complete unknown. Pardon me. And then in government reimbursements, this is really this is kind of a pass-through line. We receive the money for dogs and for vital records, and we pass that amount on to the state for these items. So this has been reduced in the expense side. I suppose it is possible that we could have fewer vital records revenue in 25 and fewer dog licenses in 25. So it's entirely possible, but generally these lines would be synced up one with the other, and they're not currently. This is the expense is lower than where the revenue is currently showing. So meaning that it's likely that we would overexpend this next year. But again, that was something the budget committee did. But if so, in any event, if the board were to take the budget committee amount of 153, 184, add $500 for the training and dues, and then also add in $800 for the election preparation, so $1,300 to that, I think that would probably be sufficient. So meaning $154,484. That would be my recommendation, unless you wanted to just take the department request at its face value.
But don't you think there would be enough money in the postage line? I mean, they have in here absentee ballots. Well, I don't think we get many absentee ballots for town meeting. There's not going to be I'll call it interesting election we had in November. So I would think absentee ballots are going to be very low. I don't believe their postage is going to be what they expect it to be.
Well, we have a new postage machine. Not all the postage has been reflected in this as yet,
So that
unfortunately.
5,000 isn't a true figure?
No, it'll be higher than that, but this $8,500 number came from the town clerk tax collector.
Right, and I think
The
it's high.
the cost of the certifieds has increased significantly. I guess she does more certifieds than she has in past years.
I'm sure she did this past year. However, I think that's going to be reduced. Just me.
Tim, on the accessibility, we're required to update ours? I mean, if they,
We're required to provide the equipment now,
but
and
we have the equipment, I guess that's what I'm asking. Why? do
They
we
are
have to?
proposing that we provide the programming to the tablet that a lot of communities are screaming unfunded mandate. It was passed by the legislature. You must have this, but you're going to pay for it. So it is an unfunded mandate, but who knows where it'll go. But Tim's right. We don't have to use that machine at town meeting,
Mhm.
but we do have to use it at any
At the-
state or federal.
Hmm.
And it's got to be programmed.
And
So if the state is saying,
yeah.
well, we're not paying for it, we can fight it, but it's not going to be resolved in 2025.
So do we have, let's see, federal elections, it's
Well, it's state.
going to be the same.
Will we have state elections this year?
no, it'd be the year after.
Okay, so we won't have, the only election
Just
we'll
have the
have is town
town.
meeting.
That's right.
Yeah.
But from my understanding from the town clerk, we're required to acquire this in 2025. This is the way I understood it.
We won't be using the device in 25.
So it's not required at town meeting
No.
for voting?
For the
No.
voting, for the warrant articles at
We've
the
never
polls?
set it up at town
We
meeting.
do not need the accessible voting booth for town meeting.
Okay.
It's only for state and federal. But again, you know,
So do we need to?
who knows where the battle will lead us?
Well, that's the other, yeah. But I get, is she
If we don't fund it in 25, we can certainly fund it in 26.
26. Because we're not going to have to pay out anybody to program it because we don't use it. That's the portion.
Well, and that's the way to look at it. But eventually, it will have to get programmed.
Well, in that case, I would say the most critical thing is to make sure that town clerk, tax collector has their full amount for training and dues.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
But again, can't that come out of postage?
Training and dues?
I think the postage line is high. Probably like $500, which is what they reduced the other line from.
Well, you could certainly make a motion to make the postage for the town clerk, tax collector, say 8,000, and the training and dues 2,000. Thereby moving $500 from the postage line to the training and dues.
Well, training and dues for us is already at 2,000. We haven't reduced it.
Well, that's correct.
The
But
budget committee did.
if you wanted
Budget
to,
committee did.
if you wanted to reduce the postage and make sure that the selectmen's column shows that it's recommending $2,000 for training and dues, what I'm saying is that you could approve and vote on $8,000 for postage and $2,000 for training and dues, and thereby it wouldn't change the bottom line.
Right.
I'll make a motion to reduce line 4140.325 town clerk tax collector postage to 8,000.
Mm-hmm. I'll second that.
Any more discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
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 There's one line done.
So then if we leave the training and dues alone, the department request number 155, well, we could just say
No,
155,000.
You'd be actually approving 153,184. In other words, if you look at the budget committee voted column,
I'm not looking at the budget committee voted column.
okay,
I'm looking at the department request column
okay,
because we haven't done anything with the department requests.
right.
You're suggesting that we leave the,
Training and dues?
training and dues alone,
Yes.
and we haven't suggested reducing any of the other columns.
Okay.
So the only thing we've done is taken 500 out of the department requests, 155,535, which brings it down to 155,35.
Correct.
So I'm just making it 155,000 even.
Where would you like to take the $35 from?
And I see they took $800 off election preparation as well. I forgot about that. We just had that conversation.
Yeah.
Either way, we're going to have to raise and appropriate it eventually.
So that 800, is at the cost of the programming and running?
We don't know what the cost of the programming is.
We don't.
It's probably going to be a little more than that.
So if we went with the 5,000,
Yes, you're probably fine.
so when we have the hearing, we'll know the exact cost for that, so make sure we are covered.
I doubt we'll have the exact cost. No one.
We know what it cost us previously to. The
state has provided it, from my understanding.
I thought estimates were up to the $1,500, $2,000 for programming that thing,
I've
which I thought
asked,
was outrageous.
for this, the scanner. I know what we pay for the scanner, but I have never seen anything for any of the accessibility equipment.
I think
I
I
bel-
saw it at the election, but
So-
I'd be guessing.
So I don't know if that was included in that budget already or which would have to be taken out, or it wasn't included, and then we should be cautious of where we're reducing.
We had added money in the department request to the election preparation for the accessibility equipment. And I believe it was, I want to say it was about $1,500, roughly speaking. The budget committee's discussion was that the board could always move money into that line if it costs more.
More than the,
Because we've
15.
added other lines. That was the statement that was made.
Oh, I mean, again, keeping in mind a budget is simply a plan.
It's a
That was
best
the
guess.
statement
Yep.
that was made.
so if that 58 includes another $1,500 that was added in for the programming that we're not going to need.
You proposing to take 1,500 out of it?
Well, I'm thinking of hitting it at $4,000.
Make the motion.
So I'm going to make the motion on line 4140.570 town clerk tax collector election preparation to vote on that budget as $4,000 even.
Second.
So that would only be taking out $1,000 to account for not having to program that machine, which we put in for a rough guess of 15. So we're still leaving $500 for whatever else we might have to deal with that.
I suspect
So
if
we
we
get
get
better
to the end
numbers.
of this year and discover we have to get the thing programmed, we'll find
Do
$1,500.
you think we'll be over that much on the budget, Kevin?
Consider what we normally have left over.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
So if you're in agreement with the other lines, that would give you a new total of $153,235.
I'll make a motion to approve $153,235 for the total of the town clerk tax collector's budget.
Chessman, second.
Any other discussion on that?
This is just making sure that the training stays at 2,000, right? That's where we're at.
What's that?
Making sure that the training stays at 2,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We left the training alone.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure.
And that made the difference. The difference between budget committee and ours. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Finance.
So one thing I should note in here is that in the audit expense, there's a CDBG proposal that's going to be coming to the board. And if there is a single audit required, it'll cost us $6,000 additional, which is it's a huge undertaking. About a 700-page report that whether you're the state of New York or the town of Tilton, you have to do this single audit if you exceed a certain threshold. The threshold used to be $750,000. For 25, it increases to $1 million of federal money. So they're proposing $470,000 right now. We have the $500,000 congressional. We do get other federal funds through the PD from time to time. So we just have to be careful. But if we trip into that single audit area, that should be borne by the CDBG grant.
Right.
And I just want to bring that up so that because it's important that we put that onus on them, and not have it somehow prorated, which was a suggestion by the administrator of the grant. So in that case, and then I believe
If
we
approve the
can,
grant.
we did, in fact, I knew there was something in this budget. I scoured it. I could not find it. The actuarial services contract portion of $1,725, we did encumber that. So we can remove that from the finance budget. I just want
Oh,
to
nice.
double check, but I believe that was on the encumbrance list.
Which line?
It was actually $1,925. It was an increased cost. And so we can take 1725 out of the audit line. So that would make it, and
Like
what I would do
520.
is I would just, let's see, 1725. Hang on, 18085. Jeez. That's going to be 16,360. Instead of the 18,085.
And that includes the 7,000,
No, that's, no, that includes
the 7,000 if we have to do that.
the single audit? No, that doesn't. No. So
The
it's not.
CDB, the grant
It's only
should
if the
pay for
board
it.
approves doing the CDBG grant, then that money for a single audit should be allocated to the grant expense and not part of our operating budget. We
That's
shouldn't
not in
incur
there?
any,
Well, we pay it out, right?
we would have to pay it out, but they would have to reimburse us for it. So in other words, just like any other monies that flow through the town, because the town has to be the sponsor of the project, it would just be a part of their budget along with other things that have to get paid, but they would have to bear the cost of that.
And Mr. Chairman, we did have that discussion with the grant writer, the CDBG grant writer, Tim and I. In fact, you were there, I think. And they will be coming on the 16th for their grant request.
As long as we hold true to that,
Right.
the $7,000 or $7,500 will not be borne on the taxpayers. We're good.
Well, it'd have to
But
be a
we-
condition of the, if we approve the grant,
That's
Right.
correct.
Yes.
That's, yeah.
that's a condition.
That would have to be a condition.
We will bear no expenses of that grant whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
We
So-
already had planned ours, so.
So that would bring the total with that reduction of 1725, because I'm going to make that change to the department request column as well, now that it's encumbered. So that'd make the department request a total of $137,266.
What did you say, Tim?
137,266.
266. Okay.
We can just approve the bottom line.
The 137,266, that's correct.
Motion to approve total finance for $137,266.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved.
Then the long-term debt, this is just the schedules that we pay. There are occasionally slight changes in the amortization schedules, particularly with the long-term bond that was USDA debt that was refinanced. But these are the figures, and the total is $425,736.
When do, I know the police station is probably
41.
beyond my lifetime.
It's 41 for
What about the
police station.
USDA?
36. And we always have the opportunity to buy down the police station bond if we saw fit, but it's at 1.9%. So I would not recommend. I would not recommend doing that
Yeah.
Yeah, no reason.
unless we borrow money at a 0% to do so.
All right.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
It wasn't bad. The thing I'm most proud about that is how we stepped into it. So we didn't have any one year where we suffered a huge wallop in that line. That was a good thing. So that's the number 425,736 once again.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve that number of 425,736 for long-term debt.
I'll second.
Any more discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
I make
So
a
moved.
I make a motion to approve the number of 464,500.
Actually, I'm sorry, Joe, that would have changed now with the change in the finance total. I don't think it's necessary to vote on the total of finance and debt. It's just showing
We did them separately.
for comparison purposes.
Okay.
And then in the information technology budget, I mentioned in my report that the PD software was reduced by $1,639 to reflect the fact that we're going to have to pay more in the beginning of the year for software that's at Belknap County, and then we'll see a reduction towards the end of the year in our licenses that we pay for that are housed internally at the PD. So there's a net reduction of $1,639. There may be an opportunity to get the county to pay for a little bit more, but that's something we have to negotiate with them. So this is what we do know, and that's been the only change in that budget from your prior reports.
Does this 117462 reflect that?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to accept the total information technology of 117,462.
Jessamine second.
In discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved.
Great, thank you. In the land use budget, there was only one change made by the budget committee, and that was in the last line, which was relating to economic development. They had reduced it from $2,500 to $1,500, and keeping in mind that there are monies set aside for different programs from the old Main Street program money and other things that they felt could be used down the road, but they thought that was sufficient.
I'll make a motion to fund the land use budget at $152,238.
Jessamine second.
Any discussion?
Do you have one quick? So the salary and stuff, how does that affect with having Pat not taking that position? Affect anything as far as
So
there
this
anything-
this budget reflects just if you're looking at the salary lines, are you talking about in terms of
yeah.
enforcement?
Yeah.
So there is no change in here currently for enforcement. But that's something that that you'll find in the health and welfare. There's still available money within that particular line.
Oh, okay.
And Catherine, may I ask, you did say 152, 238, correct?
Yes, I did.
Which, yeah, okay, thanks.
I'm good.
Did I miss the vote?
We didn't vote on it yet.
No, we
Okay.
haven't voted yet.
Okay, sorry.
John's studying.
I'm good.
Oh, I thought you were studying.
No.
You looked at it very
So
intently.
I always.
There's a motion and a second.
Oh, okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved.
Okay, the big change within the health and welfare budget was that the budget committee discussed at length the increase that the human services director had asked for, going up $10,000 to $35,000 for general assistance. And they felt as though that in spite of the fact that there were programs ending that benefit the welfare clients, and that there may be more demand on the town, that number one, it has not been overspent in a number of years. And the second thing was that legally the town can overexpend their budget due to welfare expenses,
Mhm.
which is true. And they knocked it back down to $25,000. And then to answer,
Wait a minute. That's my says budget committee voted 39,448. So does this not reflect the recent vote?
no, it's not in the, that's the salary line you're looking at.
It's general assistance.
General
Oh,
assistance,
general
yeah, at the
assistance. I'm
bottom.
sorry.
Bottom line.
920.
Bottom line.
Yep.
Yep.
And then I did want to point out to answer Selectman Adams' question. So in the in that first salary line, there's $7,800 that over the course of the year that has not been allocated as yet.
Okay. Thanks, Tim.
So when you say we can overexpend it, that's one of the lines that you can, but I mean, then we'd have to come up with the money from somewhere else in our budget.
Well, that
Or can we
Technically,
automatically
yes.
increase that on
technically yes, but also if for some reason someone made a challenge to the board for overexpending the budget, to some degree, if the cause was because of either a judgment against the town or welfare, there would be no standing, for something like that. In other words, by law, you're permitted to overexpend your budget because of those two things.
It's one of those areas that we can delve into the
Right.
bank
Unassigned-
savings account
Unassigned fund balance.
it. So that
if necessary for
He just likes
welfare.
to use the
It
technical
would come out of
terms.
unassigned fund balance,
It's
but
what I
it
call
would
it,
show that you
savings account.
overspent your budget for the year.
Sounds like a slush fund.
Oh, it's that number that sort of doesn't physically exist.
So the 97,196,
That's what the budget committee approved. That's correct.
and then Department Grass is 107,895.
I'm not sure how Heather feels about that, but
The general assistance expense is up to date. That is the year-end total, the 16,293. But again, as I'm sure you heard from her, her concern is that a number of things that she was able to direct clients to receive help are either going away or have gone
Yep.
away. And therefore there'll be more demand on the
I think
town.
that's my concern. I mean, I know of several communities that have now they had a few times this past year increase their budgets, welfare multiple times. So that's my only concern. But I
Well,
mean,
it's such a
I know
such a fluid
it is.
number. I mean, we have a large influx in the fall, before winter hits in, and then you get about this time of year, and I think they go south or to bigger communities that have more services
Yep.
than we do.
Yep.
But you never know.
I know.
It's
Well-
not when you can budget for. And
Real cold winter leads to a lot more fuel bills and higher electric bills and stuff like that has to come out of this for people who can't afford to keep those things on.
well, that
So
also
far,
comes
we've
out
been
of
lucky.
Of
the
cap.
energy funds from CAP.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, we still have people trying to live outside,
So
Yeah. Oh, yes.
which I find amazing.
one of our big expenditures is people can't pay their rent because they had to pay those other bills.
That's
And
either way
they're
it
facing
goes, right?
eviction. One of the things is due to our limited housing supply, we don't have a lot of people that are, as other communities do, to dip into that fund. But so if we did put it back in or did include what we budgeted, the difference would be if we didn't spend it, then it goes into the general fund and does that. If we don't put it in, then we could pull it out of our
Reserve unfunded.
capital reserve fund.
Hmm.
So it wouldn't be one of those extra cookie jar or under the mattress funds.
Right.
Right.
We have monies to cover it if it exceeds.
I mean,
And I don't want, Heather's always really good with this. She runs it really good, but the money could be made available. I think next year we're probably going to have to.
Next year, I think we'll have a better vision of what this looks like.
yeah, I think so too.
And we find the money if it comes to that.
We can pull it out of our.
Keister.
I mean, you're
I
looking at
think
what?
that's the word.
A little over $6,000 is what was taken out of this.
No,
10,000.
it was
It was
10,000.
10,000.
10,000.
And it was all on that
So what if we put
General
5 back in?
general
assistance.
assistant line, 10 grand.
I mean, what if we put 5 back in?
But she's only used
16,000.
16,293,
Yeah, it's only 65% of
but that's of the 25,000.
right.
Even figuring it goes up next year and she spends the whole 25,000, we don't need to have an extra $10,000.
No,
there.
you don't.
No.
She's
Thank you.
anticipating that it would be what, $11,000, $21,000 higher than she paid out this year. That seems like a lot of extra money somehow for a thing that we can find money other places. If it absolutely had, I don't like raising money we don't absolutely need to raise.
Considering what we
I hate
usually
that.
end up left over with.
This is one of the most difficult areas.
Yeah.
though. Because things go real quick.
Tim, could we find the money?
We
Well,
have,
it's got to come from somewhere. So
There you
we're
go.
obligated.
I know where to get it from.
Finance.
PD. There's a,
it's just a plan.
there's this,
Yeah.
yeah, there's money in this budget. There will be. I mean, look at what we've
We
encumbered.
just don't know
Look
where.
at what we've encumbered this year for necessary expenses.
Mhm. Not all those
It
were
was a personnel
necessary
issue, though.
expenses.
Some of them were wishful,
Mm.
wanties, I call them.
Needed down the road, but not necessarily this year. But we gave back, what, $400,000?
That's correct.
And I anticipate we would give back excess next year too. I mean, nobody here is going to Disney World.
And part of the strategy was making sure we had enough this next year in 25
Right.
to really be able to make a significant, reduction again.
We would still have to raise that money this year to reduce it next year.
I make a motion that we reduce the general assistance line to 25,000. I mean, the other thing we're agonizing over is the budget committee's budget is what's going to go to town meeting.
Mm-hmm. You'd have to stand up and give a presentation about why we want to be able to justify extra
I happen to agree with them.
$10,000. So, moving right along, I'll make a motion. What's the new number? 97,
Put it
190.
on my motion.
It's
What's your
Just made
motion,
one.
Captain?
It
I'm
would
sorry.
be
To reduce the general assistance.
To 25.
25.
Reduce the general.
I'll second that.
It's line 920. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 So moved.
the
We'll get,
the other change that they had made in this budget was to reduce the health officer miscellaneous expense by half.
I think I'm good with that.
And to reduce animal control to $1. And the animal control was my doing because we have not spent anything on animal control. We have a contract, and it prescribes that we pay $100 per pickup, but we haven't spent anything in 3 years, not a single dollar.
So no strays have been picked up.
We have
In
not
2 years.
spent $1. So
Poor dogs are homeless.
That's interesting.
the
Is that because we don't have an official animal control officer?
Oh, we pick dogs up, trust
Yeah,
Kind
the
of.
PD just pays for it.
you put pictures on them.
Yeah,
me. We donate a lot of money to the Franklin Animal Shelter and things like that, but they take care of us, but we take in a lot of dogs and bring them forward. A lot of the times what we do is we just get with the town, and with the licenses, we can find out where they're located by their dog tags. And we bring them, we are animal control and.
and a lot are chipped too.
I have a question for you, Chief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you
know,
transport those dogs?
right in the back of those brand new Tahoes.
With a blanket on the seat or
Oh,
whatever.
negative, we don't carry blankets.
All right.
Nope.
Ace,
Good enough.
Ace Ventura.
Clean them out though.
Hmm.
So getting back to this line, we keep $1 in it in case we do have to pay any significant amount to the animal shelter. But those were the two other changes in this line. So the budget committee had, that's how they got to the 97,196 number by reducing $499 on animal control and $200 on health officer miscellaneous expense. Aside from the change that you just made in general assistance.
I will say, if I can say real quick, Tim did do a great job with that contract, so we were using another service, and it
Oh, yeah.
was costing money when we have to go up there. And with this, it's pretty much per dog, where the other was not a contract, and we were getting billed for not even having the service
Yeah.
of the
We-
company.
Oh, we
We
paid
paid-
for the service whether we used it or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Now
we did that
it's-
for years.
Yeah,
Yeah, we paid
That's
$5,500 a year for that in the past.
that's ridiculous.
Originally, we were driving up to Meredith with them.
At one time. yeah.
Years and years ago, yeah.
140 and now Frank.
Oh, I remember throwing them right.
And
in
we
the back
had
of the
a
Crown Vic.
designated animal control officer at
Yes,
the time.
What's the bottom line number we're voting on here?
Well, if we
97,
reduce
196?
the health officer expense line to 200 and the animal control line to $1,
Mm-hmm.
it would be
97.
97,196, would it
Yep.
not?
That's correct.
I will make a motion to approve the health and welfare budget in a total of $97,196.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
We'll make an aside here to say that I'm just a little bit uncomfortable that Pat's not having the opportunity to vote,
So
but she knew what we were doing. So
we can revisit this too.
absolutely, if she's got an
At any
issue,
time,
we
we
can
can-
come back.
we can
She
come
did,
back. And
I can tell you that she did discuss it with me. She had a couple of areas of concern that the board has already dealt with, and that she seemed to be fine with the budget in whole. So, in a
And she can
material
bring
way.
it up again and
Oh, yeah.
we can
You
go
have
back.
plenty
Any
of
of us can.
opportunities.
We have
Aren't we
time.
looking
Anybody-
at a public hearing with the budget committee real
February-
soon?
The
February-
15th, yeah. And
Yeah.
she wanted to make sure that the board had voted
Some
on a
numbers in
budget
there.
so that you were represented on the document when it's being reviewed. In the Public Works budget, you'll note some changes that now that we have the employee hired, you'll see that the department request for cruise wages is slightly reduced from what the budget committee voted on. And in terms of those wages, you'll see that retirement is slightly less, some of those other lines, but that health insurance has increased. And in any event, and that's as a result of the actuals that we now know from the hiring. And so the department request now reflects $819,584 as opposed to the budget committee voted of $807,000. So there were a few items that were reduced in this budget. In particular, let's see, equipment purchases was reduced because the director was going to purchase a few of the things that they needed this year. What was the other? I'm looking for it here. The equipment rental, which I mentioned, that was cut in half.
Yep.
And that was by the director's design to do that. And then I'm looking for the building maintenance items. Where are they here?
The building supplies.
Building repairs. So this was brought down from the $15,000 to $9,000,
Mm-hmm.
and this was again in agreement because originally there was a septic design that was discussed that was going to cost $15,000. That has sort of been shelved, but what does need to be fixed, they need to have all their HVAC or their big heaters that are in the main garage, and that whole heating system cleaned out. That's about $4,000, and then they need to repair the salt sand shed. So the $9,000 should be able to tackle both of those and any sundry items that come up during the year. So essentially what that amounts to is taking $7,000 out of the department request would be $812,584. And that $7,000 would be made up of $6,000 of the building repairs and $1,000 from the equipment purchases. And then a suggested number would be $812,584.
I'm good with with this, but before we have that system serviced, pretty old system, it's not efficient at all. Can we take a look at the savings, such as what we did with our boiler downstairs?
To replace it?
Yeah.
To see what the cost would be to replace?
Because sometimes it's
How old is it,
actually
you think?
cut our heating back
Oh, yeah.
bill by like $3,000-$4,000
Definitely.
by replacing that. And,
How old is that system?
it's
I think it's the original.
to the building.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah.
So about 24 years.
And that's a big user
Oh, yeah.
because that might be
And
worthwhile.
they have the doors open.
If we think it like barn door, town barn, yeah. So it might be one of those.
Yeah, I can
love to
see if I can
us,
get get,
also have used oil burner.
I'm sure we can get
Just do it.
Director Dow to get working on
Yeah.
some vendors for that.
But
Get a
keep that
price.
money in there for that, and we can figure out the difference. Or amend as appropriate.
Well, we also have, the board has, they're the agents for the Capital Reserve Fund for infrastructure, building infrastructure items. So that also is available to you during the year if you discover something that you want to take advantage of.
So is it the 812 or 819?
So, so if you take out those two items I mentioned, reducing the building repairs from 15 to 9,000.
Yep.
For the items that I mentioned, which were to cover the cleaning and to cover the salt sand shed, and then also reducing the equipment purchase line from 4,500 to 3,500 because the director was able to purchase some of those items this year, or I should say in 2024. That would reduce the department request column by $7,000, resulting in $812,584, as you said.
So why, so we switched everything over from the maintenance and ground maintenance from parks to public works?
Well, it's been like this for some time, for about 4 years now. Are you talking about the last item, parks, building, and ground maintenance?
So when we did that, it got pulled out of the
Park commission
budget at
line,
that
but
time.
you can always, decide you want to move it back into the parks
But
commission.
at that time, when we switched it over, we pulled it out of parks?
That's
we pulled
correct.
it out. What we pulled out of parks was we used to hire an outside landscaper to
Mhm.
mow the lawns, to do the weeding and maintenance of the
Yeah, I remember all that.
foliage, trees and whatnot.
Yeah.
Now Public Works mows the lawns.
Mhm.
Most of them, yeah.
The
You
what?
still have one,
Paul
two,
does
the Vest Pocket and
the trees.
Mm.
He also mows Vest Pocket,
Civil War. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who does Buffalo. I guess Public Works does the parking lot at
Yeah.
Buffalo.
Yep.
We have a part-timer that does weeding.
So at that time when we started, I remember that whole thing because we had horrible problems with outsourcing it. Did we remove that amount from parks?
Yes.
We did.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Well, the amount for mowing, yes, but we left in the
Trees.
the tree
Because
work,
Paul does the trees.
the weedings, et cetera, et cetera. And when we had trees on Main Street, Paul was taking care of those as well.
They're all gone now, aren't they?
Yep. I thought Christmas looked very dismal on Main Street this year. Anyway, so yes, that was removed from parks.
My only question.
So what's the bottom line number?
$812,584.
Make a motion that we approve the public works budget in the total of $812,534.
$84.
84.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay, in the sanitation, the major change there was just the reduction in both the expense and also you'll see it on our revenue side for commercial solid waste haulers. And that just reflects what the actual activity is at this point. If we overexpend this line, we will also receive the equal amount in terms of revenue. So.
The total sanitation.
The total there is 557, 535.
I'll make a motion to accept the total sanitation of $557,535.
Jessamine, second.
May I apologize. There was discussion of reducing the recycling processing costs by $2,500, and which I had suggested because we're still ramping up. And I checked with Director Dow. We have plenty of supplies for the foreseeable future, and he felt that was fine to do. So the correct number, and again, my apologies, would be $555,035.
555,535.
No,
Withdraw my
555,035. So the budget committee recommended number.
Oh, okay. All right.
I withdrew my second.
Are we getting about that for our reimbursement, the commercial solid waste?
So we are getting our reimbursements, but the revenues and the costs have been lower. So I'm just trying to reflect what the actuals are showing currently.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you did. You reduced by 55,000.
And you'll see the revenue also was reduced.
Right.
So both sides go down. We make a small administrative fee off of that.
Has our residential gone up, our tonnage?
I
would think it would with the recycling not being fully going there.
It hasn't been a huge change. We're pretty consistent. It definitely goes up in the summertime.
Really?
I budget for, the 1,635 tons. And then we also, we budget for replacement parts and bins if they're new houses, things like that. People's bins get destroyed, what have you.
Our demos actually gone down.
Well, we really think it's important, the discussions that we've had to implement with the new dump stickers, that they bear the license plate on the sticker itself, so that that you can't pass them off.
Yeah.
And it's going to take more time at the transfer station, according to the director, to check, to make sure that the sticker matches the plates. But
going in, you just look at the last few numbers, look at the sticker, they match.
Right. Yep. So
Talking less than a minute a vehicle.
You look
To
at
save-
the plate as they
Right.
drive up and then glance at the sticker. You should already know when you get to the person whether the vehicle is right.
well, and keeping in mind that sometimes they're working with someone that's already come in and helping them with, if it's an elderly person with their load, or they're pressing down, with the loader, the compacting the the container. So there are times when I've been there when they aren't necessarily right at the door because they're helping someone or doing something like that. But they do go.
Still headed in a good direction.
Yes, and
Yeah.
for the
I
few
can
times
see
that
the
happens,
reduction.
that's so be it. But in any case, that would be the number 555,035.
All right.
It's already gone down almost, $8,000? Yeah,
So I'll make a motion for the total sanitation of $555,035.
Jessamine, second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
We're up to PD. All right, police department budget. So, as you may have heard in the town administrator's report, there are contingent offers for both a patrol position and a detective position. They are budgeted in this budget. that would bring them to full staff. And we're fortunate to have the chief here as you have questions. One other thing I'll note that if you recall, we did spend a lot of time on the body camera taser agreement. That is now loaded into this budget, the first of 5 years. And it does take into account the offsetting grant that we're receiving from the state.
I have a question. It's going to stray from the budget a little bit. Do our body cameras have that sleep mode that's been talked about so much in the news of late? So they press a button and the camera goes off,
No,
they press it and it comes back on, or is it either on all the time?
no, it's not a sleep mode.
You're going to need a mic. Okay.
So I guess you could call it, I don't know, Tim would probably know the terminology a little better than I would, but it's more like a standby mode, I guess. So it's always, it's
Well-
not quite recording. So when you hit it, it goes 30 seconds back.
Yep.
So hopefully you're not doing something as using the bathroom or something like that, and you hit it, because you will go 30 seconds back and it will start what you were doing 30 seconds prior to that. So we've had that. But you have an accident like we've talked about before. I was hit with that plow truck that time in my cruiser, hit it 30 seconds back, and it was able to capture the full accident. So that helps. The only thing we do have is a mute feature. It doesn't black out the screen, it mutes it. And that's if we're talking to a supervisor, but we don't use that rarely, and we don't really project that to the officers. Also, sometimes if you're in somebody's house or something like that, or you're at a hospital or any kind of healthcare, anything like that, you're not supposed to. We have guidelines for those things. So no, we don't have a blackout mode or however that is. So.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, gee,
What?
I watched the movie last night.
Oh no.
it seems like
I hadn't
the
seen it. It
biggest
was
part in
disturbing.
here for me is your request for a detective and a patrol officer.
I didn't give them the names.
We had no luck in finding these people as of late, and I hate to budget money if we're not.
That I won't talk about. Yeah. So like I talked about 3 weeks ago when I was here in front of the budget and I spoke to you directly about that question, we're right there. And I know we've heard this over the years, but it has not been easy. I've probably aged like 15 years in 3 years. And I, yeah. See, when I grew my facial hair out on my day, I looked like Eric. So, I mean, I'm very appreciative for the town and for the select board over the years, because we have had a lot of turnaround, and we also projected to hire, and sometimes it just didn't work out that way. Eric knows also with Laconia, they're hiring. It's not easy to fill positions. It's not easy to get good officers. It's not easy to get quality officers. It's not easy. Nobody wants to do this job anymore. So not to get down the side street and be here for a few hours, I do have two conditional offers that I did bring. Okay. And these two are, I would say, one of them I could present. I was off. They did what they needed to do to get to that for the background. So we're good to go. And I could present that within the next meeting or whenever we're good to go. The other one is also good to go. So my goal is, by everything works out, by the end of this month, we'll have everything ready to go and hopefully be at full staff. That's the plan. But as of right now, we're good.
How many of these candidates are certified?
One is certified, one is non-certified.
That means we have to send somebody to Concord again for 6 months, right?
That's correct. But then you're hiring at that lower end, though. Also, you remember the hourly rate. I know it probably works out with riding in 2 people in a cruiser, and we could get down that road. But also, it's not going to be easy with what I have for a budget to get a certified, experienced detective in there, and then also a patrol officer has 10 years or 15 years on. It probably would not meet what we're. So it actually works out really well for what it is. And I've learned, you probably asked me this 3 or 4 years ago about
certified or non-certified. I would have told you certified, it's easier, but non-certified, you can really mold a person. You can really, there's a lot of things you can do. And I enjoy the new officers that we have, and I enjoy.
Just concerned about the expense.
Yep.
Because for the first 7 months of their employment, we're paying them and they're not capable of driving around by themselves. That
Well, it's an
a
investment.
fair assessment?
That's a fair assessment, but they are taking some of the caseload, as in taking calls for service, going to the lobby when the other officer can still work. So they can still work tandem. If they go to an accident, and most of our accidents involve at least 2 vehicles or more. I mean, we have close to 500 accidents a year. And I mean, it's nice to have at least 2 people in those cars and be able to do those, handle those calls. So
Right. They can still collect information. They can still put on a traffic vest.
Mhm.
They can do those minute things.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, we
and
can
then-
still use them.
Yeah, and then each month that goes by, I mean, once they're in the academy, you don't see them anyways, and they're just getting reports from the chief and stuff for the chief and stuff. So, I mean, I do agree though. It is probably much easier to hire someone that is not certified.
True enough, but wouldn't it cost us $50,000-$60,000 over the course of that training breaking in period? And if you gave that money to a certified officer, wouldn't they be able to hit the street right out of the gate? Or even part of that money? Because I know
No,
that training money, kind of, you got to look at it over the years, and at least 3, right? That's our contract.
they don't hit the street running. They still have to go through a field training program,
Mm-hmm.
which and depends on whatever.
Quicker than others.
Right. Whatever quirks that they may have,
Yeah.
may need to be worked out.
And certified officers are expensive these days. They
Yeah.
really are.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a non-certified, it's, hey, this is what it is. This is where we're at. This is what we're offering. Unless you're going to another department, makes a lot more.
You haven't lost anybody to any other
Yes, we have.
departments around
Yes,
here,
we have.
we?
Yes, we have, Parker.
I know it
Oh,
wasn't
you.
you specifically, or maybe it was. I don't know.
No, it wasn't me specifically.
No. And that's what happens. And with a non-certified officer, you're able to mold them, and they have that 3-year that contract where you're not going to do that with a certified officer. You're going to pay on the higher end. If I brought a certified detective or certified officer that was going to be detective 10, 15 years on, you're going to play at that. And then I said to the board right now, I'm looking at somebody that has 10 years on. You would say pick one or the other. I know that's where that would go right now. So I'm trying to get bang for my buck, as you could say. It worked out that way. You just don't have a lot to choose from though. Also, you're not getting 100 applicants every time you put it out.
What about, have we talked with all the people within the department currently that might want to move into a detective and then train another patrol?
Yes, that's been done. I mean,
I know
Parker,
it's been done.
Parker was that was his role. He was going to move into detectives. That's how that was going to go. And then we were going to fill his spot with two patrol, because we had one open, another patrol. Well, actually, it would have been one patrol when he left. That opened that up, and there's no one there. You remember, we have a brand new PD. There's probably some qualified people, but I'm not about to stick somebody and sacrifice. I wouldn't say sacrifice. I would say stunt their growth or stunt their learning by putting them in there with maybe 2 or 3 years on the road. I mean, they have to have time to get on the road. They got to have time to just see everything before you go and throw them into detectives. And we need somebody to hit the road running, being a detective also. This is huge if it all works out. We have one detective in there, and his caseload, I brought it to you guys. It's extreme. I mean, so I know that's probably not the best answer from the looks at the end, but I'm used to it. I get it. We've had this conversation before. I get it. So
Where's the next place we can save $10,000 in your budget?
well, when we just did that grant for the MDTs, that will probably save us about $45,000, because we would have had to buy those eventually. So Lieutenant's actually doing a grant right now to get 100% of brand new MDTs. And those are not cheap if you ask Tim. So, I mean, I guess you could say that would save. Our MDTs are probably 7 years old right now or something like that, 7, 8 years old. So they're well past. we were able to secure that. We should be able to finalize that soon. That will be about
Say
45,000.
is that property taxes are killing the residents.
Yeah.
It's just really hard on people, especially right now. And the next year is uncertain.
I get it.
And every penny we can save on things that we don't need. This past year, we had a couple $100,000 left, like 5% of our budget we didn't spend.
Yeah.
I don't want to raise that money again if we're not going to spend it.
No,
I'm just adamantly opposed to that.
I understand. And I'm going to do everything in my power with buying those used vehicles, with getting grants from MDTs, with able to secure some money for some equipment, anything that we can do to take the burden off the community or the residents is what we're going to do. And give back as much as we can too. That just helps.
Your performance has been exemplary.
I appreciate that.
And that said, I still want to save $10,000 somewhere.
And I want to save you $10,000 somewhere. So I think we're on the same page. The town really does need to, and I don't even want to think about the future of all the building and everything else, but PD needs to get to full staff, needs to get back to where we were years and years ago. I just feel that way.
As long as we're going to actually do that, I support it.
Okay.
I don't support not having a detective at the end of this year or being one more patrolman down. I feel like the residents have a right to feel safe in their homes and out on the streets and at the mall. And,
absolutely.
Yep. And I credit the Tilton Police Department for doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, we
do good work.
But for them to feel safe, we need to have a fully staffed police department, and they need the support of the selectmen to help further that.
We have a fully staffed police department. I'm 100% behind it.
And I feel good in saying that right now because I do. I feel good with these two candidates, and we've done everything we've had to do. We don't skimp on doing backgrounds. I'll tell you that right now. So I don't care if the person just had a polygraph. Last month, they're going to get another polygraph. If I feel that it needs to be that way, if it needs to be a psych, there's going to be a psych. I'm not going to cut corners and hire just to fill because it's just going to give me headaches and the town headaches. That's what it is.
The liability.
It is. So trying to pick the best of the best, trying to get full staff. So. Thank you.
Okay. I do have one more question. You budgeted a certain amount for these 2 extra police department employees. Is that what we're going to spend on these people? We
like
picked
budget,
we picked a number out in advance to put in here that would reflect their wages. And
yeah.
So will that indeed reflect their wages, or can we reduce that?
Tim and I have been in talk. So with that number, that's roughly where we're at. Is that correct? He's saying.
I'm beginning to feel like you, Catherine.
It's interesting.
That is interesting. Hey, I want a fully staffed police department. I feel.
But where does that number come from? Don't get me in this conversation. You go back and look at the history of 20 years of our PD.
Yeah, I already started
that
filling it out,
magic
John.
number that Bobby came up with.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's
existed for about
91.
6 months here,
Where did I
2
put it?
months here.
Because we couldn't keep
that-
people.
Oh, here it is. right
Okay,
here.
but the issue is our police department functioned
I used to keep one under the
without
glass
fault,
when I was
without
chairman.
problem,
You don't know
without
that.
the magic number.
You don't know that.
I do. I talked to Bobby
You
before he
don't know
left.
that. Yeah, he was real forthcoming.
And
I don't
and,
want to have this conversation in public.
and look at the but it's all public information. Look at the statistics. The
Nonetheless,
arrests increase, the convictions. If you look at all of that, nothing was affected by that one person not being there. Even their overtime budget.
But you have to think about how much proactive work, which would
What
have
happened to the
increased
chief? Did he leave?
the arrests, which
He's
would have
over there talking
increased
to him.
Where'd he go?
the calls for service
Oh, I
if
can't
they're
see
fully
it.
staffed.
Weird.
But if you look at those figures,
I didn't bring a scrap. You
for
can just
20
write down
years,
the
that's who we
asset,
were.
and then we can say
And our
tentatively,
We have to look at it.
arrests increase, the numbers
and
increased,
then we can get that.
our
one.
convictions
You can't say though,
went with it,
you can't say that society
Okay.
is
our overtime
the
did
same
not.
way
Yeah.
as it was 20 years ago. You can't say that.
No, but over the 20 years,
Okay.
Okay.
I have an
We're
answer
back.
coming.
Yeah, so we're very close to those numbers. Tim and I had talked about that on the low end. We have something that's brand new, so we kind of know where that number is, where they're going to be starting, and when they get out of the academy, they get that little bit of a bump. And then the other position that person is certified and has years on, we know exactly. So we're within. I mean, we're right there. We're going to know. We'll have the exact number once the town meeting, probably way before that, but it will be able to reflect that. So.
Yeah, we could always make a change if necessary, but it's very, very close.
Yeah.
less bullets.
For me, we need to have that. We need to have that in place for me to vote for this. You can't just say
would we have
by
that-
town meeting.
Would we have that by the 15th?
Oh, yeah.
We don't have the positions filled. I'm going to
So-
want to cut that budget.
Selectman Jessman, we'll have that by the budget public hearing on the 15th.
Okie dokie.
Yes, we will. Good to go.
Good enough.
And you'll be able to make changes to that. The budget committee could adopt that at that meeting, and then the selectmen could do it on the 16th, the following day,
We
if
can talk
you so
about
felt.
it the second Tuesday in March.
Exactly.
Again,
Never too late. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So the department request is $2,570,211, as you'll find on the top of page 11.
Yep. But we're not voting on that, right?
We can.
Hmm.
We can
No,
always
you
come
are.
back.
That
and
So it'll
could
reflect in
decrease
the
it when we
report.
have other figures.
I would recommend you have a number
All right.
for the police department,
then
but
amend it.
understanding that you can always amend it. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to accept the total police budget of $2,570,211.
Second.
Hey, welcome back. We have a motion and a second by Selectman Constantino. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Pat?
Aye.
Yeah, let the record show I voted no.
All those opposed? We have one selectman said no. Let the record show. Selectman Dawson said no.
Okay. So the motion passes?
Yes,
Is
the
that
motion
correct?
passes.
So in the Culture and Recreation Department, the increases here, you can see there was a slight decrease in the Park Commission expense line. They are actually going out and getting numbers for their own janitorial this year. But there is money in there for that. The park maintenance line, you will see the bridge charges expense to this line. I just haven't had a chance to do so since your last meeting. But in the 24 expenses, you'll see that increase by the amount of the Turner agreement that we expended. Other than that, the Hall Library had an increase of 12.4%. And we budgeted more money for Memorial Day. As it was commented last year that we needed to do more at Memorial Day, more wreaths or more flowers. And you can see the other changes. Park Cemetery, after years of needing more money, they did put in for more money. And you can see the summer concert there as well.
How many people in the Parks Commission?
Excuse me?
How many people are there in the Parks Commission? 5?
I believe this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe there's 6 of us. No, I don't know.
Well, we budgeted for 5 stipends.
I was gonna say, I think there's 5. I think I counted
I think-
Judy twice.
I couldn't get to 6.
Yeah, I counted Judy twice.
Any other questions on that?
Well, I'm a little disturbed by Hall Memorial Library's 12.4% increase, considering that they increased last year because they needed to adjust all their wages up and et cetera, et
That's
cetera.
what it is this year.
But now here we are again, making another adjustment at 12.4%,
It's basically wages.
increasing wages. Nobody is going to get a 12.4% increase this year for wage. I just,
You get to the point where they can't hire librarians. You need a certain level of. I sat through the presentation, and I'm not saying yes, no. I think it's outrageous, and quite frankly, I think basically libraries have outlived their purpose. They're not renting lawnmowers, but the amount of stuff you can go to the library and get that aren't book related at all, it's stunning to me, quite frankly. And I like libraries.
I love libraries.
It's just they're so darn expensive.
I just think they need to think outside of the box and come up with other ways to make revenue rather than just on the taxpayer. And they have come up with some, but not.
By and large, libraries.
If you look at what other libraries are doing, they haven't gotten there yet. I would suggest that we drop that by $10,000.
I mean,
The
they do.
library line.
Yeah. I mean, they do a lot of programming over there. And they do. I mean, that I do know. But I would agree that this is probably mostly wages.
It is. If you look at their.
Good motion?
Motion to reduce line 4550.932 Hall Memorial Library to 163,305.
I'll second.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Pat.
Did we get to the Pines by any chance?
No, yeah.
Nope, not
Not
yet.
yet.
Okay, thank you.
I call the question.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
All right.
Negative.
So 3-2. Motion passes, yeah. Motion passes, 3-2.
Okay, so your new number there would be 209736.
209.
Motion to fund total culture and recreation at 209,736.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? What are you thinking, Joe?
That's
And Pat?
the total line?
Yep.
The $209,736 for all the culture and recreation, from park commission expenses, park maintenance island, Hall Memorial Library, Old Home Day, Tilton Events Committee, Memorial Day, Park Cemetery, and Culture Summer Concert.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on that? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
So 3-2, motion passes.
Okay, and the last grouping here are the outside agencies of Lakes Region Planning, Youth Assistance Program, Community Action Program, Franklin Visiting Nurses, Pines Community Center, Greater Lakes Child Advocacy Center, Twin Rivers Food Pantry, and CASA. The requests total amount of $163,279. I can tell you that one of the reasons for the increase in the youth assistance program was because the youth assistance program had a significant grant last year that reduced the cost to both the towns of Tilton and Northfield,
Yep.
Which was a 1-year
Award.
kind of award. So it's moved back up to where it would normally be.
And we won't know till she presents, right, about any other grants or anything that she's.
Right. There is a possibility that
That it
during the
that
year
it could go down.
Get some.
she might be successful with
Yeah.
something, but right.
Do we know how many people that they serve Tilton versus Northfield?
I have papers that say, but I don't have them right in front of me, Pat.
Can you recall?
No.
Actually, we might. John's got some stuff right here, Pat.
Yeah.
Are we talking about?
I
Pine?
suggest that we put the vote on hold until we figure it out.
I thought youth assistants
there's-
charged for those in Northfield and Samerton.
I think they do, but what we're talking about is their service to Tilton.
My understanding is the amount of residents in Tilton has declined over the years.
I don't know as I have that kind of information.
Which are you talking about, Pat? Just for clarification.
Library.
The amount of attendance for the town of Tilton versus the amount of attendance in Northfield.
Through the youth assistance program?
No, for
Community.
the Pines Community Center.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Oh,
That's
'cause we're looking
why I was
for-
asking.
We're looking for the other one.
There it is.
Right.
There, Joe. Quicker.
And I believe they're still without an executive director at the Pines, or at least they were the last time.
So visitors to the center. Let's see. Tilton 284, Northfield 679, and then 120 other.
So visitors are different than participants.
Okay.
Well, they charge Northfield separately. They charge us, they're requesting a certain amount from us. They're requesting a certain amount from Northfield.
What did they request from Northfield?
I want to say $68,319. This amount is 54.51% of the youth assistance operating budget, and it's based on the school population.
Yeah, they're talking about Pines, Joe.
Yeah.
Pines Community Center.
Yeah, Pat was asking
Oh,
about
I,
the Pines
I
Community
thought we
Center.
were still doing yap.
We were.
Oh, well, we switched canoes and now I'm
Yeah.
drowning.
You,
Oh, I
yeah.
was confused here.
I'm throwing you a life preserver, Joe.
Thanks, buddy.
So,
Right on the application.
You just handed me youth assistance stuff.
that's because
That's what I thought we were asking about.
that's what we were talking about.
That's why I asked the
And
question.
then
Everybody's
Yeah,
getting
Pat threw,
yeah.
a, Pat threw a curve.
So
I was
what
pretty
does
sure
the
she wasn't talking about
Pines-
that.
What are they asking from Northfield?
So
Do we
I
know?
can tell you that in terms of the percentages of participants, the other category of 120 represents 11% of their total. Northfield
It gets in
represents
there.
62.70% of the total, and Tilton represents 26% of the total.
There you go.
How much
So-
money are they asking from Northfield?
The same.
Oh. 68.
My,
Oh. And from us, they're asking for 54.
No,
well, hold on a minute. So
Joe,
you're saying,
I'm still in youth
you're still in youth
assistance. Sorry.
assistance. So the Pines Community Center is
I'll
requesting
throw another one, Joe.
75,000. They're requesting 75,000
Get
from
me.
the town of Tilton. I don't have the
and how
number.
much are they asking from Northfield?
Does this
Take that.
fall under the YAP program?
No, under Pines Community
We're not
Center.
there yet.
I think we've been at Pines for quite a while,
Wait, I know, but we didn't.
but not everybody.
Oh, I'm there now.
Okay, so we're talking about Pines, right?
We already voted
Yeah.
on that, Eric.
On the
Wow.
the outside agencies.
No. No,
I'm sorry.
Didn't
No,
vote on
we
the
didn't.
outside agencies.
Sorry, we didn't.
no, we didn't.
We did culture and recreation.
Right.
Yes.
So now we've moved to the next
Now we're
category.
outside.
So, and
well,
we're
yeah.
discussing. line
So
nine-
you have 62% of Northfield residents attending the Pines community, and you only have 20-something% of Tilton attending.
Mhm.
And
20
yet,
Yeah.
we're asking $75,000 from the town of Tilton. And how much are they asking from Northfield? That's the question at hand.
I'll bet it's the same, don't you?
I know it's the same.
Has been in the past.
That's what I mean.
And yet, a month or two after town meeting, they've cut it in half. Northfield has.
Northfield
They
did
didn't,
theirs.
they didn't pay their whole bill.
They did not, they have not paid their whole
Well, that's
fair.
nice.
Because it's in the budget. It's not a warrant article, so
Yeah.
the selectmen can say,
Correct.
Right.
no.
Yeah.
And
That's
what
correct.
Alrighty.
Yeah, but they're doing 75,000 from both.
Yeah, see, so they're getting $150,000 and 62% of that is from Northfield residents.
Yep.
I mean, come on, let's be fair. This is, you want to look at where to cut? Here's a place.
So what is it? Approximately 1/3, 2/3?
Yep. But-
Not quite.
Well,
40%,
No.
60%.
Well, based on the numbers that were read out, that's a total of 1,083 participants. 120 were considered other, whatever that means, or guests. That's 11%. But otherwise, it's 26% was Tilton, 62% was Northfield.
So what's 26% of 150,000?
46,000?
Yeah.
With that.
Roughly.
40 grand.
My brain's beyond
Roughly.
computing. This is tea time.
There's 40.
It's 39,335.
39,335.
Well, let's make it an even 40,000.
Yep. I agree with that. So I'll make a motion to adjust the line $75,000. Let's see, line number 4520.970, Pines Community Center, from 75,000 to 40,000.
Second.
Any more discussion on that? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain.
And one abstention.
I have close ties to the committee.
Did Pat?
I've been on it.
Yeah,
in the
Pat, did you,
past.
I didn't hear you, Pat.
I said A.
Okay. So that's 4
And then abstain.
So
and 1 abstention for that line,
for that line.
970.
I want to talk about the community action program. I do agree with a reduction. I do not agree with the reduction. Am I looking at the right thing
Yes,
here?
you are.
No,
Line
you're not.
910.
Their request is
No.
12,000.
That's right. Their request is up from last year
Yeah.
to $12,000.
Well, their request is up from 12,000 because they got depleted at the budget committee, and then I raised it at town meeting. So that's why I put it back up to 12,000 at town meeting vote. So that's why it's looks like they're just asking again for 12,000. I don't believe that it should be 12,000, but I also wholeheartedly believe in what they do and what they do for Tilton with Meals on Wheels and the out networking that they do, and also the senior center. So I do want to make a motion for $8,300.
You just reduced it.
So
you
you're
reduced it
reducing it
from
from
their 12.
12,000 to 8,300?
Yes, because I have my reasons. I believe that they are um
I'm confused.
penny wise, pound foolish.
You're talking
And
about
I
community
this is
action program?
community action program, and I'll say it out loud. Because I really, really, really do believe in the program and what they do for the town of Tilton. They do so very much. The networking alone and just the Meals on Wheels is phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal.
So,
What they do at the senior center and the programming that they do for the senior center is outstanding. So we want to keep that going.
so I think you're confused because last year it was cut even more than the $8,300, and it was raised up to the $8,300 at the town meeting. And Pat
It
wants
was
to make
raised
sure it
up.
doesn't get cut any more than that. Is that correct, Pat?
I want to make it $8,300. I don't want it to go to $12,000.
Okay.
That's what I want to do.
Second.
Any other discussion on that? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Up,
No.
up, and
I'm
one
opposed to
no. So we have 4 yes, 1 no on that. So moved. Okay, so let's see. We've been hitting this one pretty good. Everybody's good. Lakes Region Planning. I'm just gonna read them down. Youth Assistance. Good with that. We changed Community Action. Visiting Nurses at $10,000. We do reduce the Pines. Greater Lakes Child Advocacy Center request. They didn't request Oh, they did. They requested 5,000. Is this new?
No, budget, oh,
We
is this
haven't
one new? I
seen this
think
one
this
yet.
Or
one
was
is
this,
new.
I was
I think
thinking it
this
was-
is new.
Yes, that's new.
I'd make a motion to fund it at 0.
yeah. Grant State,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss
Okay.
that. Do you know what the Greater Lakes Child Advocacy Center does?
Here we go.
Yes.
Oh, I know what they
Oh,
do. I've worked
okay.
with them for
I
years.
sat there and listened to the
Okay.
presentation, and
Okay.
we haven't funded them in the past, and we can't fund everybody everywhere.
Well, I understand that.
And our taxpayers are hurting.
Yeah, I understand that. But they also serve a purpose,
They do.
which actually helps a lot of children.
But there's other
That suffered
agencies that
traumatic
also
events.
overlap in
Name one.
CASA.
Not like the Child Advocacy
You
Center.
have,
They work kind of in conjunction with
yeah,
CASA
yeah,
a little bit.
because, I mean, a lot of them work with children. I can't think of them now because I don't have the list in front of me.
Well,
When I was on the budget committee, this conversation came up, and that's,
They do stuff. I mean, they definitely do stuff,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily a bad program on any level. They have other sources
no,
of
but
funding.
like you said, Tilton
And
can't
we have a
fund.
lot of poor people that are struggling to pay taxes. That's what I've got to say about that. My responsibility is to the residents. And they have other sources of funding. I don't think they're turning away Tilton residents.
And they do get federal funds and state.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm looking at, 123,000 federal, state 16,000, foundation grants 82, fundraising 15, and chapter operating support, which is 319. Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion? So we have a motion on the table to fund it at 0, I believe it was, from
Yeah.
Joe?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
And seconded.
Catherine went first and I seconded.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain.
Get that? Okay, next one's, so moved.
I make a motion to fund Twin Rivers Food Pantry at 500, as we did last year.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I do have a discussion on this one. Do we know right now that we are the only food pantry, or the closest one? I think Franklin, I heard Franklin was closing. And I wasn't sure of that. So does anybody have any information on that?
Yes, I do, Pat. The Twin Rivers Food Pantry was temporarily relocated to, I believe it's the White Congregational Church on School Street in Franklin, across from St. Gabriel's Parish, based on the fact that they had rodent activity in the current location, which was across from Benson Auto in Franklin. So the program is still very active. I have a friend who serves on the board, and donates very heavily to that food pantry. And they will be moving back. They will be active, and a lot of Tilton residents I know do go to the Twin Rivers Food Pantry.
I agree with you. The reason why I said that was because there's been a lot of activity in the Congregational Church, and now we have some movement in the Franklin area. If ever there was a need in this time in our society for food pantries, it's now.
I agree.
I agree.
I mean, we could use food pantries opened up every single day of the week,
Well, I agree.
and still not enough.
I
So,
also
go ahead.
I also think that if we are trying to save taxpayers money, that's great. But the fact of the matter is, if they can pay their rent and go to the food pantry to get food to help offset that cost, why wouldn't we fund that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
I'm
that's
not quite
like,
getting what you're saying, Eric.
so we want to make sure we're saving taxpayers money. Completely agree with that. But if we're cutting funding on the food pantry for people that are struggling to pay their rent and have to choose between eating food or paying their rent or their mortgage, utilizing a food pantry is an opportunity where they don't have to
Dip into the rent.
make that dip into their rent.
I don't think that the town of Tilton should be funding food pantries. I think that's something that individuals do. I know I do. A lot of people do.
Yep.
$500 worth of food ain't going to buy much for anybody. So I think for them to depend on the town of Tilton for that drop in the bucket is ridiculous. It needs to come from other sources, like, when you walk out of Market Basket, put the canned goods in the food pantry bucket every week or every time you shop. That adds up a lot more than $500. I think that outside agencies have to stop coming to the towns, the municipalities for funding like this.
So, if it was, for me, if it was the Congregational Church asking for $500 worth of food, that's right in our community here.
Mhm.
It would go right directly to people can transport to there. If you can't afford food, it's going to be tough to get all the way down to Franklin too. But I think even if we offer a drop-off spot or something,
Mhm.
I think that would be a good one. Anyway. Oh, let's see. Okay, so, who made the motion? Was it
I did.
Catherine? And that was to not fund it?
No, to just give them what we gave them last year.
$500.
$500? Okay. So all those in favor of giving them $500 towards the food pantry, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? So moved, unanimous. That's it for the whole
You still have CASA.
CASA. They didn't ask for anything, right?
They asked for 1,000.
Awesome.
We funded them 0 last year.
Okay.
Well, the budget.
Make a motion that we fund 0.
We have a motion to fund them 0.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Unanimous. Funding 0.
Okay, so that then reduces that total request from 163,279 to 117,479. and that reflects the $35,000 reduction in the Pines, $3,700 reduction in Community Action Program, $5,000 reduction in Greater Lakes Child Advocacy Center, $1,100 reduction in Twin Rivers Food Pantry, and a $1,000 reduction in CASA. So that completes your.
Well, we should vote on that final number because we didn't vote on the Lakes Region planning, so that,
And also Franklin visiting nurses
and Franklin Banner.
and youth assistants.
So you said the bottom number was 117,479?
Yeah, $117,479.
I'll make that motion.
Motion, second by Dawson. All those in favor say aye.
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 Joe?
No,
Opposed?
me.
No. Okay. So we have 4 and 1 opposed. Motion passes.
Okay, on the the other items were the sewer commission budget was $974,386. That is a pass-through budget.
So I ask you all the time, is there an official definition of a pass-through budget in the RSAs or
No.
anything like that?
No, but
So we just call it a pass-through budget. It shouldn't be in there as a pass-through budget because it's telling people, because we could say no,
That's
well,
right.
it has to
but
be.
we shouldn't say
Well,
pass-through.
let me explain why
Saying
why
that
we
because
do.
it's not raised by taxation. It's raised by fees.
But we're required to gross appropriate, meaning that we have to show, because the sewer commission in DRA's world is considered part of the town. So the revenue has to be shown in the revenue category and the expense has to be shown in the expense category. The fact that they're an equal amount is what,
Because they
for
bill for whatever.
lack of a better term, considers it a pass-through.
Source of wash.
It's a wash. And same reason with, same thing with Lockmere Village.
John, it's similar to like the police revolving fund for details. Revenue comes in, expense goes out, but they
You have to
generally.
gross appropriate.
Yeah,
Right.
and I just understand, but technically we could say no.
That's right.
Good.
You can reduce
So-
line items
And
within that
everybody
budget
needs to
just like any other
realize that
budget.
because we always say, oh, yeah, there's nothing you can do about it.
And
But
that's not true.
there is. We
But
could
the-
say no, or we're not going to approve that amount.
Based
It
on
could
what,
get
though?
rejected.
The
Well,
difference.
that's it. You'd have to.
Well, because we
What?
could look at their budget and say,
That's
no, we
right.
don't agree with it.
I don't want to delve into the sewer commission, but
Well,
they
just-
have a meeting, you can go to the meeting.
And I understand, Joe, but I just want to make it clear that we do have that opportunity that
We
we
do,
Yes.
could.
we do.
Wasn't our budget, wasn't the sewer commissioner's budget submitted to the selectmen as well as the
It
budget
was,
committee?
yes.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
The
Just
other
sure.
difference is that the sewer commission is not considered a village district, whereas Lockmere Village Water is a village district. So that's why you don't see Lockmere Village Water within our budget or revenues. But I would ask the board to look at page 12 on the 2025 budgeted revenues of $2,902,386. Again, these are just estimated. But without objection, I'll present those forward. And then more importantly, on page 13 are the warrant articles. You can see the roads, bridges, sidewalks, highway equipment, building infrastructure, island preservation and improvement, revaluation, improving lakes. And again, and these are ones I've reviewed before with the board. But considering the work that's ahead for roads, streets, bridges, that's why that line was increased the most out of all these. Would the board like to make any changes to these suggested amounts in the warrant article? They can always be changed down the road or at town meeting. But in order to, produce and fill out the warrant that you will sign, I do need the board to vote on what you want to do on these warrant articles.
Make a motion to approve the total suggested money and warrant articles at $234,428.
Testament second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved.
And just as an aside, to let Selectman Constantino know that the elderly exemptions were approved as recommended in my report. So that concludes what I have
I have a question.
for the budget. Yes.
On the estimated unassigned fund balance, didn't we agree to give back 400,000? It says 5. Or maybe I'm in a time.
Nope, you're correct. I will double check that at the time. I
Can
think
we
that
afford
just,
to give them back 5?
so that was a leftover figure from the end of year when we were looking at the tax rate. So I have to make sure get the correct number in there.
Can we
To see where
afford
we
to
are.
give them 5?
We in 2025. So
That's for
this was
this
what
year.
was this was what was left over from 2024 documentation. So in other words, this is not looking forward to 2025. I have to make sure that that's correct. I think we're going to be closer to $1 million in the unassigned fund balance when all is said and done. So if we're lucky, but I hate to say numbers like that because there are things that do crop up or something I've missed, and I just need to spend more time on that.
I just want to give them back everything that we can give them back.
Well, and you'll have that opportunity, and you'll know the fund balance number in 2025 before tax rate setting, and you'll have that opportunity.
Okay. It's my money too.
So that's all I have.
Do we need to approve the sewer budget?
I think, did you not? I thought
We
you did.
did not.
You did not. Yes. If you would, please. The sewer budget, again, is $974,386.
I'll make that motion.
We have any discussion on that?
Need a second.
You made the motion.
I'll second it for the purposes of discussion. The public, the users, whoever's paying that fee, have the opportunity to weigh in on this budget at meetings or hearings and stuff, so that the users are not just along for the ride on the short end of the stick.
No.
When is that informational public hearing or whatever going to be? As a
Well,
user,
we've had our meetings every month.
Mhm.
We haven't had a public hearing on the budget, but we have announced working on the budget, at least for 2 meetings we did. But we've also sent out information in the sewer bills on, what's going on, rate increases, projected rate increases and that stuff. So we do communicate with the sewer users.
I've seen a few of those notices.
Mm.
I need to go to is it done? This is it? This is the number and that's all that she wrote? Or is there time to tinker with that?
No, there was a time to tinker with it when we set out the proposal months ago.
I had definite issues. But this is not a time to air those issues.
We don't get a
because-
lot of input from,
No,
unfortunately, our users. We do from some, but not a lot, which is sad.
okay, I'm moving on.
Okay, any other discussion on that, on the sewer? Of 974, 386. All those in favor say aye.
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 I
I have to abstain.
I think that's
Opposed?
wise.
I
One,
think so.
one abstention. Selectman Dawson. She's on. And that's it.
So all
We're
we're left
done.
with is that darn PD budget. Oh, no, we sort of did.
We
We
Yeah,
can
I mean,
readdress it.
We voted on a
We're
number.
gonna be,
Yeah.
a lot of times we
Budget
change
committee
a
has
couple
it.
things
Yeah.
here and there.
And as you said,
Yeah, thanks, Joe, for all you've done with the budget and all that. And
it was an experience.
Yeah.
It was an education.
I'm glad I was just. I did
You've
for
done it a lot of years, John.
24 years. I did the budget
Holy.
and chaired the budget. Yes, I gave up. Yeah, so I'm pretty good at it.
It's not a
Okay.
win-win
In fact,
situation on the
when I
budget
s-
committee.
No,
One of the years that I was, or a couple of years, I think I was doing the budget. Tim was on the budget committee. Yeah.
if some people win, other
That's when we
people
start
lose.
revolving accounts.
There- and
That's
it's
so.
gonna be
That's
always
the end
angry
of
at you.
my report, and
Yeah.
probably the end of the public session.
We have
Mr. Chair.
non-public.
The things I hear about
Yeah,
what's
we
Okay,
got
so
done
non-public.
by
anything
the
else?
selectmen.
So we are going to be going into non-public. I didn't know if there's, I don't see if anybody's online that want any other questions or anything else that we should be doing in public.
It's not on the agenda.
No.
Just when you thought it
Okay,
was over.
so
I'm
We're
not going to
going
be held
to-
responsible for any decisions I may make.
let's see, motion to enter into non-public per RSA 91A:3 2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee. So we're gonna do a,
Second,
Constantino, yes.
Dawson, yes.
Adams, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
Okay, we're
Well-
in non-public.
This conference will now be recorded.
It's a ceiling thing.
I just hope my car starts.
Okay, and make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public until matters are resolved.
Jessamine, second.
And motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, and well, actually, hey, Pat, don't you have something that you want to say?
I do. I have this one last.
I was gonna recognize Pat for this one. You
Okay.
get special honor.
All right. Go ahead. Pat.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, Pat.
Aye, Pat.
Take care of yourself, Pat.
Take care of yourself.
Bye.
Let the record show that Pat